Chapter 23:23, Love at First Sight, 2, Then Let's Go In. Len Ruoxua nodded. Then, she gave the people around her a look, and they swaggered into the white fox race's territory. When Old Leopard saw their vigorous and spirited appearance, his spirit was also shaken and he quickly followed them. As they walked, they did not even see a single strand of fox fur, much less a white fox. Chief Leopard, are you sure this is the territory of the Arctic fox? Len Ruoxua asked with uncertainty. It's absolutely true. Old Leopard nodded hard. What about the white fox? If there's no white one, a black one will do too. Len Ruoxua laughed lightly as she teased. However, the Old Leopard was not as relaxed as Len Ruoxua. The absence of the white foxes could only mean one thing: all the white foxes had been summoned back to their clans to deal with them. With this thought in mind, Old Leopard's mood instantly became heavy. He said with a serious face, the white foxes have probably rushed back to the clan. They must be here to deal with us. Oh. Since that's the case, let's hurry to the white fox tribe. Don't make them wait too long. When Len Ruoxua heard this, she quickly replied. I'm afraid. I've been waiting for a long time. The Old Leopard secretly sighed. Of course, he would never say it out loud. Then, he nodded and said, then let's go. Unfortunately, its wish was good, but the reality was cruel. Even though they had already arrived at the White Fox tribe's territory, Jiang Ning and the other alchemists were still unwilling to let go of the medicinal herbs along the way. Seeing this, Old Leopard's heart was beating so fast that it was as if it was scratching his heart and liver. Just like that, the group took another 3 days to reach the White Fox race's territory and their base. As for the extremely narcissistic White Fox tribe leader, she was already getting impatient. When the clan leader of the White Fox clan had been anticipating the arrival of Len Ruoxua and the others, she had been in high spirits. Her condition and aura were at their peak, as though she was a warrior who was ready to fight in her best condition at any time. However, he was still looking forward to it. After a day and 2 days of absence, its mood gradually became anxious, and its accumulated state of mind slowly relaxed. In the end, its whole body was listless and became listless. Furthermore, it had been guarding outside with the Fox tribe members for the past few days, eating and sleeping in the open, exposed to the elements, and had completely lost its image. This was because it was not sure when Len Ruoxua and the rest would arrive. They were clearly very close to them, but they were still not here. The White Fox tribe leader was getting impatient, and the Fox tribe members were also getting tired of waiting. The image of the foxes was like that of a stray fox that had been wandering for a long time. Their originally snow-white fur had turned gray because they had not washed and combed it for a long time, and it was even stuck together. When Len Ruoxua and the others arrived at the White Fox clan's encampment, they were greeted by a group of dirty and listless foxes. Upon seeing this, Len Ruoxua turned to Old Leopard with a suspicious look. Chief Leopard, is this the Arctic Fox tribe? You didn't bring the wrong one. Thanks. Why does this place look like a beggar's den? Wasn't the White Fox race the strongest beast in the Floating Clouds Mountain? He was also known for his intelligence, so how did he end up in such a miserable state? Seeing these dirty foxes called white foxes, Len Ruoxua was deeply suspicious of the Old Leopard's words. Was the Old Leopard praising these foxes a little too much? Little girl, this is the White Fox race's territory. There's no mistake about it. Do you see the biggest fox? It's the leader of the White Fox race. In order to increase his credibility, Old Leopard specifically pointed out to Len Ruoxua who the clan leader of the White Fox clan was. However, when Len Ruoxua heard the Old Leopard's words, she shot a glance at the White Fox clan leader. She was even more distrustful of the Old Leopard's words. She couldn't believe that the dirty fox that was looking at them in a daze was the White Fox tribe's leader. If it really was, she would be extremely disappointed. In her eyes, all foxes loved to be clean. However, Len Ruoxua couldn't help but cover her face with her hands. They were so dirty that she didn't dare to look at them directly. At this moment, Len Ruoxua heard another "awoo" sound. Then, the huge fox that was pointed out to be the White Fox clan leader did not even turn its head back and ran away madly behind her like a wisp of smoke. When the other foxes saw this, they also reacted. In the blink of an eye, all the foxes in front of Len Ruoxue and the others had disappeared. Ugh! What was this situation? Len Ruoxue and the rest were dumbfounded by the fox's strange behavior. Even Old Leopard was confused. Little did they know that the White Fox clan leader had led a group of people to wait for Len Ruoxue and the others. They had waited for too long, so none of the thoughts they had in their hearts, or what would happen when the two parties met, were put to use. Not only that, the test of time had made them lose their patience and confidence. Just as they had given up on guessing when Len Ruoxue and the others would arrive, Len Ruoxue and the others suddenly appeared in front of them. Hence, they could not react in time and were stunned. The conversation between Len Ruoxue and the Old Leopard was naturally heard by all the foxes. When the White Fox clan leader came back to his senses, the first thing he thought of was how he would look like as the #1 beautiful fox in the White Fox clan. I'm finished. I'm finished. It was so embarrassing. As the White Fox clan leader ran, she let her thoughts run wild. Then, she ran back to her residence and quickly washed up. When she reappeared in front of Len Ruoxue and the others, she was already a fragrant, clean, and snow-white fox. After washing up, the White Fox clan leader's confidence returned. The White Fox clan leader glanced at the Old Leopard arrogantly and said with a sullen face, "Old Leopard, you are a traitor of the beast race, and you still have the face to come back? He even brought back a human to help him, humph. You have nothing to say now, right? Let's see how you're going to quibble." "I'm not trying to quibble. However, my little girl has said that I'm not a traitor to the beast race, you are." The Old Leopard raised his head and puffed out his chest as he spoke with incomparable confidence. These days, Len Ruoxue and the others had been brainwashing him a lot. Therefore, the Old Leopard's confidence was now bursting. It was enough to kill all living beings in seconds. Bullshit. You Old Leopard, we didn't collude with the humans to harm the interests of the beast race. The Old Leopard's words infuriated the White Fox clan leader, and she cursed in her heart. This was slander. The White Fox clan leader could not tolerate the Old Leopard's slander. It was so angry that its long fur stood on end. Its blue eyes were full of anger. If it had not retained a trace of rationality, it would have rushed forward and torn the Old Leopard into pieces. "I don't have any." Old Leopard also said innocently. "No. You've already brought the humans back, and you still dare to say you don't have them?" The White Fox clan leader questioned him angrily. Today, he finally realized that this seemingly honest Old Leopard was actually quite shameless. This was becoming more and more like it. Chapter 23-24, Love at First Sight, 3, There's Nothing. Old Leopard still said. You, the White Fox clan leader pointed at the Old Leopard with her huge claws. She was so angry that her whole body was trembling. She was wrong. This Old Leopard was even more shameless than it. The facts were in front of it, but it still dared to renege on the debt. "Calm down," Old Leopard deliberately dragged out his voice, and then coughed a few times and continued, "That sly fox, I'm here today to recruit you. You should quickly surrender." The Old Leopard's words were very direct. However, the White Fox clan leader was puzzled and asked, "What do you mean by amnesty enlistment?" It knew about surrendering, but it had never heard of the term amnesty. Amnesty enlistment means that you surrender of your own accord. Len Ruoxue explained with a faint smile. Clan leader White Fox turned her gaze towards Len Ruoxue. The moment she saw Len Ruoxue, the White Fox clan leader clearly felt as if she had been struck by a bolt of lightning known as love. Then, her little heart started to beat wildly. Her blue eyes were instantly filled with tears and her face was hot. Following that, she lowered her huge head in embarrassment. Ugh! Why did this sly fox suddenly become shy? The old leopard saw the huge fox, who was just baring its fangs and brandishing its claws, wanting to cut him into 8 pieces, suddenly became shy like a little wife in the blink of an eye. He suddenly felt like thunder was rolling down from the sky. Could it be that in the blink of an eye, something had happened that it was unaware of? The old leopard was extremely puzzled. However, when he accidentally discovered that the sly fox was secretly peeking at the little girl Leng Ruoxue, he understood. It turned out to be a disaster caused by beauty. However, Leng Ruoxue's image had been circulating in the immortal realm for a long time, and he had never heard that this sly fox had taken a fancy to that little girl, Leng Ruoxue. Why did it look like it had fallen in love with the little girl at first sight? This. Should it congratulate him? Old Leopard was a little hesitant. That little girl's idea was not something that anyone could think of. Therefore, it could already foresee the tragic end of this sly fox. However, it didn't want to reveal the result, so it remained silent. As for Leng Ruoxue, she saw that clan leader White Fox had only glanced at her once before she hurriedly lowered her head. Her heart was filled with suspicion. She knew that many beastmen's aesthetic values were different from that of humans, so she naively thought that her appearance had frightened the fox. However, this was something that could not be helped. She couldn't possibly continue disguising herself just because her appearance had scared a fox, right? There was really no need for the current her to change her appearance. Who asked her reputation in the divine realm to be so resounding that it had already reached the point where everyone knew her? Thinking of this, Leng Ruoxue continued, the treatment of surrendering voluntarily and being forced to surrender is definitely different. So, clan leader White Fox, you must think this through. Do you want to surrender, or do you want us to use extreme means? I can follow you if I surrender. After hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, the shy clan leader of the White Fox clan suddenly raised her head and asked with a serious expression. Of course. Leng Ruoxue nodded her head with certainty. After becoming her beastie, if it didn't follow by her side, where else could it go? Then, the White Fox clan leader peeked at Leng Ruoxue with her pink eyes. She then turned around to look at her clansmen who were all at a loss. She felt a little conflicted. Was love more important, or was clansmen more important? If they surrendered voluntarily, they would be able to stay by the side of the person they liked, and the safety of their tribesmen would be guaranteed. However, if they were forced to surrender, they would not have the chance to stay by the side of the person they liked, and the safety of their tribesmen would naturally be uncertain. As the White Fox clan leader pondered, she had already finished her analysis. However, if they surrendered just like that, wouldn't it be too much? The White Fox race was a respected beast race in the Floating Clouds Mountain. If the other beasts knew that it surrendered to the humans without even fighting, would they look down on it? At the thought of this, the White Fox clan leader secretly turned its gaze to the others. When it realized that it could not tell the strength of many people, it suddenly calmed down. Thanks, because there were only 2 possibilities for not being able to see through its strength. One was that the other party was hiding its strength, and the other was that the other party's strength was too much higher than its own. Now, it seemed that this situation was obviously the latter. Although these people did not deliberately release their auras, the White Fox clan leader could still sense that these people were stronger than her. In fact, they were much stronger. These people were obviously here to cause trouble. When the White Fox clan leader saw this, she felt a little indignant. However, as a smart fox, it was important for her to have self-awareness. Hence, after knowing the difference in strength between her and Leng Ruoxue's group, the White Fox clan leader had already made her choice. This wasn't because its will wasn't strong enough, it was just following the bigger picture. The White Fox clan leader consoled herself. Then, just as it was about to agree, it suddenly frowned and asked with uncertainty, "Are you Leng Ruoxue? It better not get the wrong person." Leng Ruoxue. Leng Ruoxue's face was filled with black lines at the clan leader's question, but she still answered truthfully. However, before she could understand why the clan leader would ask this, she heard his voice, "Then I'll surrender." "You're willing to surrender now that you know him, Leng Ruoxue?" Leng Ruoxue was a little speechless. Since when did her name become so domineering? No. The White Fox clan leader was embarrassed again. It was only afraid that it had mistook the name of the person it loved, so it wanted to ask clearly. However, when the little foxes of the White Fox tribe heard that their tribe leader was going to surrender, they all fell into a petrified state. By the time they reacted and wanted to protest, everything was already set in stone. In addition to that, the White Fox clan leader was a man of his word in the clan. Therefore, there were not many clansmen who dared to oppose her. Thus, Leng Ruoxue did not face any obstacles when she took over the White Fox clan. In fact, it was so smooth that it left Jiang Ning and the others dumbfounded. After easily taking over the White Fox clan, the smaller beast clans that were attached to the White Fox clan naturally joined Leng Ruoxue's team. In just a short day, Leng Ruoxue had taken over 1/3 of the beast clans in the Floating Clouds Mountain. The speed and aggressiveness of the old leopard made him feel no sense of achievement, especially when he saw that the fox, who usually liked to go against him, was not even looking at him. The old leopard was a little disappointed. You bastard! It was something that would forget its friends at the sight of a beauty. It was wrong. They weren't friends, they were enemies. An opponent who forgets his friends at the sight of beauty. He actually ignored his existence. This was preposterous. Old Leopard was full of hatred. Before he came here, Old Leopard had imagined countless scenes when they met, such as a one-on-one fight, a group battle, a pair of NS, and so on. It had thought about everything, but it didn't expect that the cunning fox would surrender before the fight even started. This made it very at a loss. Old Leopard was very sullen and depressed about his old rival's unusual behavior. After thinking for a while, he quietly pulled Leng Ruoxue to the side and reminded her in a low voice, "Little girl. That fox is famous for being cunning. It surrendered so easily, be careful of a trap." "I'm fine. It can't escape from my palm." Leng Ruoxue consoled him with a smile. With that, she left the depressed old leopard behind and left. The old leopard, who remained in the same place, felt extremely heavy. At this moment, the White Fox clan leader, who sneezed several times, came to the door with a suspicious look and asked in a low voice, "Damn old leopard, did you say something bad about me in front of Schwer? We're sworn enemies, have you forgotten? So, it's normal for me to badmouth you. Could it be that you're still hoping that he'll put in a good word for you?" The White Fox clan leader's question made the old leopard laugh. What a joke! It was truly laughable. Did this fox forget that there was a deep hatred between them? Therefore, Old Leopard felt that no matter how he criticized this sly fox, it was a matter of course. However, when the White Fox clan leader heard this, she did not fly into a rage. Instead, tears welled up in her eyes as she pitifully pleaded, "Brother Bao. Grandpa Leopard. Everything that happened in the past was my fault. I was wrong. Please be magnanimous and forgive me. Woo. Please don't say bad things about me in front of Schwer. I'm begging you." Alright. Looking at the White Fox clan leader crying and begging him with tears in his eyes, the old leopard did not know what to say. He was not afraid if this sly fox roared and screamed at him or even fought with him, but he was afraid that humans or beasts would do this in front of him. In fact, it was hard to say that there was a deep grudge between it and this sly fox. After all, everyone lived on the same mountain. It was normal to have some small grudges. Usually, they would just fight and cause small troubles. There was really nothing that would harm the race. With this thought, and the White Fox clan leader's sorrowful plan had indeed worked, the simple and honest old leopard naturally forgave it. Orcs were like this. As long as it didn't involve irredeemable grudges like the extermination of their clan, everything else was fine. Therefore, under the White Fox clan leader's deliberate fawning, the leopard and fox, who were originally like fire and water, very quickly became as close as brothers, wearing the same pants. Chapter 23-25, I'm Your Opponent, 1. When Leng Ruoxue saw this situation, other than feeling a little speechless, she did not have any other thoughts. After all, Old Leopard and that narcissistic fox were already on her side. She was happy to see that the two of them had a good relationship. It was better than the two of them being like water and fire the moment they met. She had already beaten up quite a number of beastie the moment they met, so she really did not want to see the two beastie, who were like archenemies, again. Now that she saw that the two of them were good brothers, Leng Ruoxue felt very gratified. However, what she could not stand was that Old Leopard was actually brainwashed by that fox. As long as he found an opportunity, he would praise the fox in front of her as if the fox was the only one in the world. In the end, Leng Ruoxue was forced to hide far away from Old Leopard when she saw him, so that she would not be pestered by his words. After a few days, Old Leopard was depressed. When it was bored, it wanted to have a heart-to-heart talk with the little girl. However, the little girl actually came up with all sorts of excuses to ignore it. This fact made it particularly sad. Of course, its reaction was half a beat slower. At this moment, it still didn't know why Leng Ruoxue was looking down on it. One afternoon, the Old Leopard was lying on the White Fox tribe's territory, sighing and reminiscing about spring and autumn. Suddenly, a tall figure blocked the sunlight above his head and sat down beside him. The Old Leopard closed his eyes and saw Uncle Long. He lazily greeted Uncle Long. "Uncle Long, how are you?" "Hello." Uncle Long nodded and patted the Old Leopard's big furry head. He said helplessly, "Old Leopard. What's wrong with you these days? You sigh all day long. The little girl is ignoring me." After hearing Uncle Long's words, Old Leopard seemed to have found a group and said with a face of grievance, "Ah. What did you do to make her unhappy?" Uncle Long asked curiously. "I didn't." Old Leopard buried his head in his thoughts, but he could not figure out how he had offended Leng Ruoxue. "Impossible. You must have done something." Uncle Long glanced at the confused Old Leopard and said with certainty, "But I really didn't do anything. Is it because I talked to her too much a while ago, so the two beside her are unhappy?" The Old Leopard was suspicious, and the two fingers he was referring to were naturally evil and azure. "What did you and Schwer talk about?" Hearing Old Leopard's words, Uncle Long's curiosity was piqued again. Although the evildoer and Senior Tsang were very stingy, they wouldn't put someone on their blacklist just because they wanted to chat with Schwer, right? "Nothing much, just about that fox. I put in a few good words for it in front of the little girl." Old Leopard said honestly. "I see." Uncle Long finally understood. That sly fox's intentions towards Schwer were too obvious. They couldn't even pretend that they didn't see it. So, they had always been tactful and stayed away from that fox. They didn't expect that this Old Leopard would actually dare to bump into the muzzle of a gun. No wonder Schwer didn't like to bother with it. However, in his opinion, Schwer ignoring this Old Leopard was also for its own good. Otherwise, when the demon and Senior Tsang started a fight, the consequences would be absolutely unimaginable. "Uncle Long, do you know the reason?" Seeing that Uncle Long seemed to have understood, Old Leopard asked shamelessly. "Oh woo." All of a sudden, a pained cry was heard. Uncle Long patted Old Leopard's head and said with sympathy, "You should know now." "Thanks, is that a coquettish fox?" Old Leopard looked at Uncle Long and said with uncertainty. "Well, it's being fixed by someone, don't be stupid enough to go and help. Otherwise, you'll be in trouble too." Uncle Long kindly reminded. "Mmh. I don't know anything." The cries in his ears were getting more and more miserable. Old Leopard really didn't know what to do except to pretend to be deaf and mute. Its little heart trembled as it listened. It was really too terrifying. The Old Leopard had a lingering fear. Suddenly, he had a flash of inspiration and seemed to understand. Old Leopard, who was slow to understand, immediately got up from the ground and ran towards Leng Ruoxue's direction. Of course, it wasn't there to put in a good word for that sly fox. This time, it was to suggest that Leng Ruoxue set off to subdue the other two-thirds of the beast race. After subduing the White Fox clan, Leng Ruoxue and the rest had stayed here for a few days. Of course, this was strongly requested by the alchemists on their side. In the words of those alchemists, they needed to sort out the medicinal herbs they had dug up. By now, they should be almost done, right? Therefore, Old Leopard was very eager for them to set off immediately. Len Ruoxue, who was urged by the Old Leopard, decided to set off after seeking the opinions of Jiangning and the others. However, before they set off, neither Len Ruoxue nor the Old Leopard saw the patriarch of the White Fox clan. Of course, no one would mention it at this time. Len Ruoxue and the rest's next destination was the territory of the Wolf clan. Originally, the Arctic Fox tribe, the werewolves, and the leopards were the three great beast tribes of the Floating Clouds Mountain. After Old Leopard's leopard tribe was pushed out, the territory of the leopard tribe was taken over by the bear tribe. The bear tribe also became one of the three major forces in the Floating Clouds Mountain. However, in this subduing operation, they had put the subduing of the bear tribe last. Not long after Len Ruoxue and the rest set off, a tall figure suddenly appeared at the main entrance of the White Fox clan's encampment. That tall figure had tears in his eyes as he looked longingly at the beautiful figure that was leaving. Suddenly, he let out a loud wah and started wailing. "Clan leader, my condolences." Seeing her clan leader cry without a care for his image, the little fox beside the tall figure had an extremely conflicted expression on her face. "My condolences, my ass. You've been turned into this by me, can you even cry? My schwarer. My love. Woo, I'm so ugly right now, how can I be by schwarer's side?" After hearing the little fox's words, the tall figure, whose original appearance could not be seen at all, cried even more sorrowfully. The little fox was helpless and didn't know what to say. "Ai. It's just that his fur was shaved. Did she have to cry so sadly? It's not like it can't grow back." The little fox could not understand. Compared to its clan leader's face that had been beaten into a pig's head, it deeply felt that it was nothing to lose fur. The clan leader's face was the most serious injury, okay? Unfortunately, the beauty-loving patriarch didn't think so at all. When she thought of this, the little fox closed her eyes and glanced at the clan leader's current appearance. The long fur on its body had been shaved flat, and there was a bald patch here and there. Its face was swollen like a pig's head, and it was swollen with colorful bruises. It was impossible to see its original appearance. Those two terrifying guys actually didn't allow the clan leader to eat healing pills and asked him to recover naturally. This fact made the timid little fox's heart tremble. What those two guys did to the clan leader was really too outrageous. Chapter 23-26, I'm your opponent, too. However, it only dared to feel indignant for the clan leader in its heart. It definitely did not dare to find trouble with those two fellows. If the clan leader was not their match, then even the entire White Fox clan would not be enough. Therefore, the White Fox tribe could only support and console their clan leader. "Clan leader, master, and the others have gone far away. We should return. You still have to recuperate." Looking at the clan leader who was crying and sobbing, the little fox did her job and reminded her. "Oh." The sobbing White Fox clan leader wiped her tears and obediently went back. Right now, she only dared to sneak a glance at Schwarer. She did not have the face to appear in front of her at all. This was because she had actually promised that she would not have any more ideas about Schwarer when she was faced with those two evil forces. Therefore, she felt that she could only change her love to a secret love. Sob. It was so miserable as a fox. It had finally met the love of its heart, so why did it have to meet those two evil forces? The White Fox clan leader's face was filled with grief and indignation. Then, with her head lowered, she slowly walked back to the clan in a dejected and miserable manner. Len Ruoxue wasn't aware of this scene, and Song, who was aware of it, naturally wouldn't tell Len Ruoxue about this. On the way to the wolf tribe's territory, Jiang Ning and the others gathered herbs like crazy again. Old Leopard was calm about this. He patiently waited for them to finish gathering herbs and then continued to lead the way. Just like that, the short journey to the wolf tribe took them another 5 days. The werewolves, who had been watching them all this time, were almost driven mad by their slow movements. However, the leader of the werewolves was not like the White Fox clan, who always stood guard outside the encampment. The wolf clan's patriarch was very calm. Other than sending people to gather information and monitor the movements of Leng Ruoxue and the others, he did what he had to do. The moment Leng Ruoxue and the rest entered the wolf clan's territory, they were immediately surrounded by the wolf pack that had been waiting at their original location. The wolves that surrounded them were mostly black wolves. Of course, there were also a few red wolves. From the color of these wolves, Leng Ruoxue knew without a doubt that the strength of the wolf tribe here was not high. In the wolf clan, the silver wolf had the highest status and was also the noblest. However, there was not a single wolf among these wolves, so their strength was naturally not that strong. Leng Ruoxue smiled faintly when she saw the wolves' covetous eyes. Then, with a thought, she took out the silver wolf tribe member from her bracelet. The silver wolf king, who was being lovey-dovey with his wife, was a little confused when it first came out. However, when it smelled the scent of its own kind, it immediately released its own pressure and roared provocatively at the sky. Then, it held its head high and looked down at the wolf pack in front of it. The wolf pack that had surrounded Leng Ruoxue and the others were initially smug and pleased with themselves. However, when they saw the silver wolf clan that had suddenly appeared, they were all completely dumbfounded. What was this? The silver wolf tribe? Thanks, the howls of the silver wolf king had already made the timid wolves shiver in fear. Especially when the silver wolf king looked at them with an extremely disdainful gaze, some of the wolves' legs went soft and they could not even stand steadily. After a short while, the wolves that surrounded Leng Ruoxue and the others knelt down one after another. The silver wolf king was the most respected king in the wolf clan. Although it was not their king, they still had to kneel when they saw the silver wolf king. This was because the difference in status was determined by the bloodline of the wolf tribe. The silver wolf king's bloodline was naturally superior to all other wolves, and it naturally had a suppressing effect on the wolf clan. Therefore, no matter what status their clan had in the floating cloud mountain, they could not get up when they saw the silver wolf king. You bastard! Who dares to cause trouble in my wolf clan? You must be tired of living. Just as the wolves were trembling and paying their respects to the silver wolf king, an earth-shaking roar came from afar. Needless to say, this was definitely the local wolf that had heard the silver wolf king's howl and had come out from its own home to establish its might. In an instant, a black figure teleported to Leng Ruoxue and the rest's side. Following that, a silver figure dashed out rapidly. The silver and black figures were entangled with each other. However, in the blink of an eye, the battle between the two figures had ended. Then, Leng Ruoxue and the others were speechless as they watched the silver wolf king on their side trample on a giant black wolf that was slightly smaller than it. The giant black wolf's face was also filled with unyielding anger. It struggled to get up, but the silver wolf king's big claws slapped down, and the giant black wolf became obedient again. Detestable! Where did you come from, silver wolf king? How come I've never seen you before? The giant black wolf howled with grief and indignation. Why? Why would the silver wolf king come to the floating cloud mountain? Originally, he had chosen the floating clouds mountain as his territory because the silver wolf tribe looked down on it. But he had never thought that after so many years of carefreeness and comfort, he would actually meet a silver wolf king. No, it was a silver wolf tribe. Looking at the silver wolf surrounding its little brother, the giant black wolf became more and more indignant. Fuck! Were these really silver wolves? Having lived in the divine realm for so many years, it had never known that there were so many members of the silver wolf tribe. Who was the one who said that the silver wolves could only give birth to one at a time? Wasn't this just a rumor? Looking at these wolves, it could not believe that they were all born one by one. Because according to what he knew, even the silver wolf clan, which was the most powerful clan in the divine realm, did not have more than half the number of clansmen in front of him. Have you seen all the silver wolf kings? The Silver Wolf King asked with a smile after hearing the Black Wolf's words. So what if I am? The giant Black Wolf was very uncooperative. Seeing this, the Silver Wolf King was neither angry nor annoyed. Instead, its huge claws directly hit the head of the giant Black Wolf again. With a loud paw sound, the giant Black Wolf's head drooped down, and there were only little stars in front of its eyes. Whatever this king asks you, you have to answer properly. Otherwise, you'll be the one in trouble. The Silver Wolf King warned. You're really bullying a wolf. We're both wolves, how can you bully the weak? The Black Wolf's expression became more and more sorrowful, and its voice was a little choked. So what if I bully you? If I don't bully you, would you be honest? The Silver Wolf King replied calmly. This is my territory. The giant Black Wolf couldn't help but remind him. Coming to its territory to bully it, how dare this detestable fellow? It's mine now. This place, as well as all of you, have been commandeered by me. From now on, all of you will have to follow my master, understand? The Silver Wolf King did not care about what the giant Black Wolf said. It announced its decision and the fate of these wolves. The giant Black Wolf was so angry that its long hair stood on end. However, it did not have the chance to show its anger. The Silver Wolf King punched and kicked it again. When it stopped, the giant Black Wolf was already on its last breath. Chapter 23-27, I'm your opponent, 3, can't you be more honest? Must I use violence? After the Silver Wolf King was done beating him up, it even grumbled in dissatisfaction. Upon hearing this, the giant Black Wolf wanted to cry but had no tears. Leng Ruoxu's face was filled with black lines. The mocking gazes of Uncle Long and the others made her feel extremely awkward. She guaranteed that her beastie's violence had nothing to do with her. Are you being honest now? Are you convinced? Seeing that the Black Wolf did not respond, the Silver Wolf King asked again impatiently. I'm honest, I'm convinced. The Black Wolf had tears in its eyes. Woo, he couldn't even stand up after being beaten up, so how could he be disobedient? That's good. Remember, you have to follow my master in the future. Do whatever my master says. If you dare to play tricks, I'll continue to beat you up. The Silver Wolf King threatened. Why do you have a master? The Black Wolf asked in disbelief. In fact, it had wanted to ask this question earlier, but before it could open its mouth, it was beaten up. Now, it also wanted to know the answer to this question, otherwise, it would die with grievances. Why can't I have a master? The Silver Wolf King was stunned for a moment and asked. The noble Silver Wolf clan will not recognize a master. The giant Black Wolf said very seriously. Even they were not willing to find a master for themselves, let alone the Silver Wolf clan, which had the noblest bloodline among the Wolf clan. Therefore, it could not understand that the Silver Wolf King in front of it who had beaten it up had a master. My ass. That's because they didn't meet a good master. Otherwise, they'll beg to be recognized as their master. When the Silver Wolf King heard this, it immediately scoffed. Maybe. The giant Black Wolf did not know what to say when it saw the Silver Wolf King's stubbornness. At the same time, in order to prevent itself from being beaten up again, it tactfully echoed the wolf. The Silver Wolf King patted the head of the giant Black Wolf in admiration and promised, follow my master and do a good job. I promise you won't suffer any losses. I still don't know who your master is. The giant Black Wolf helplessly reminded. Woo. It seemed like it could only accept its fate. My master is Leng Ruoxue. From now on, you have to listen to her. The Silver Wolf King warned. Yes. The giant Black Wolf nodded. Whoa. It should have guessed that this Silver Wolf was related to that human, Leng Ruoxue. It was a pity that it didn't think in that direction because it didn't like humans. However, now that he knew this fact, it was probably useless. It was already in the bag of these humans. Following that, under the Silver Wolf King's authority, the giant black wolf, which was covered in injuries, respectfully invited Leng Ruoxue and the rest to the encampment. Then, it sent people to invite the weaker magical beasts that were attached to the wolf clan. Just like that, Leng Ruoxue subdued the wolf clan and the forces on its side without much effort. The Silver Wolf King, who had made a great contribution, immediately asked for the bracelet back after the Black Wolf became obedient and continued to be intimate with his beloved wife. When Old Leopard saw Leng Ruoxue and the others had subdued the wolf tribe, he sighed with emotion. If these people had not wasted their time on picking herbs, Floating Clouds Mountain would have been in their hands by now. However, it also knew that the Floating Clouds Mountain was too small, so this little girl didn't put it in her eyes at all. Otherwise, she wouldn't have taken picking herbs as her main task and subduing the beasts of the Floating Clouds Mountain at the same time. After subduing the wolf tribe, Leng Ruoxue and the rest did not waste any more time. The next day, they set off for their final destination, the bear tribe's encampment. Along the way, the old leopard looked at the familiar road and couldn't help crying several times. He was too familiar with the road to the bear tribe, but now it didn't belong to him. The old leopard was a little sad. If he had not been so useless, he would not have left his home and been driven out of the Floating Cloud Mountain. This time, he must hold his head high and restore the prestige of the leopard tribe. At the thought of this, Old Leopard couldn't help but turn to Leng Ruoxue and say, "Little girl, regarding the matter of subduing the bear tribe, let me step in." "Sure." Leng Ruoxue nodded. Seeing that Leng Ruoxue had agreed, Old Leopard's momentum was boosted, and he walked with vigor. However, when he arrived at the bear tribe's encampment, Old Leopard felt a sense of homesickness. Leng Ruoxue was speechless when she saw Old Leopard's coy look. Wasn't this Old Leopard's imposing manner quite high along the way? "Why are you so scared here?" Thanks seeing this, Leng Ruoxue could not help but remind him, "Leopard clan leader, it's your turn. Go." The bear clan was different from the fox clan and the wolf clan. No one from the bear clan had come out to welcome them. At this time, the bears were in hibernation. Therefore, Leng Ruoxue guessed that those lazy bears should be sleeping. "That. I'm going," Old Leopard said with his chest out. "Yes." Leng Ruoxue nodded. Then, just as she was about to see Old Leopard off, who knew that Old Leopard would suddenly become dispirited and lower his head, looking listless. "I'll brew it again." Old Leopard couldn't help but whisper. "What are you afraid of? Isn't it just a bear? They're not as agile as you can beat them, can't you?" Leng Ruoxue couldn't help but ask. The Old Leopard's fearsome appearance was really unlike the Old Leopard she knew. Could it be that he had been replaced? "It's not that I can't beat them, but their defense is too thick. It's too troublesome to fight them, so I have to think of a good way. Otherwise, I'll be exhausted to death by them," the Old Leopard explained. In the entire divine world, there were not many beasts who were willing to fight with those big stupid bears. Unless it was at the level of the 4 king divine beasts, which could kill any beast in seconds, they would be at a disadvantage fighting with bears. "I see." Leng Ruoxue gave it some thought. This was indeed a problem. However, didn't Old Leopard think of this before he came here? Why did he only think about this now? This Old Leopard's reaction was really slow. Leng Ruoxue couldn't help but sigh as she looked at Old Leopard, who was deep in thought. She then suggested, "Why don't you rest while I deal with them?" This. "I said I'd do it myself," Old Leopard said, embarrassed. "Isn't this a different story? If you have a good idea, of course you will deal with it, but before that, let me do it for you." "How is it?" Leng Ruoxue coaxed. "All right then. You deal with them first, I'll continue to think of a way." Old Leopard thought for a while and agreed. "All right." Leng Ruoxue chuckled to herself, then said, "Leopard clan leader, please call out our opponent first." "No problem, watch me." Old Leopard's chi power suddenly changed. Then, he immediately roared towards the empty boundary. Following that, Leng Ruoxue and the others heard footsteps. They felt the ground in front of them was shaking and the rumbling sounds were deafening. After that, dozens of dark brown bears that were over 10 meters tall appeared in front of Leng Ruoxue and the others. These bears all looked drowsy, and some of them were still covered in dried yellow grass. They all looked like they had not woken up. But when they saw Old Leopard, their bronze-like eyes instantly widened. "Old Leopard, you dare to come back? Oh! He even brought back a lot of humans. You're so bold. Aren't you afraid that the beasts of our Floating Clouds Mountain will join forces to exterminate you?" The largest bear in the lead roared at the top of its voice. They still didn't know that Floating Clouds Mountain was about to change hands. These bears loved to sleep and had been sleeping ever since they occupied the Old Leopard's territory. Therefore, they knew nothing about the changes in the Floating Clouds Mountain, and never would they have thought that they were the only force left in the Floating Clouds Mountain. Otherwise, they wouldn't have let their guard down. "I'm scared. However, I'm afraid I have to come back," Old Leopard said with a smile. "Did you come back to die?" "Humph. Since you're looking for death, don't blame us for being ruthless," the leading bear said coldly. It thought that Old Leopard had found a helper to get back his territory. For the brown bear tribe, it was impossible to make it spit out the territory that they had finally obtained. "Don't worry, I won't blame you." Old Leopard laughed secretly, because these bears were about to be in the little girl's pocket. Hearing the Old Leopard's words, the leader of the giant bears grinned. Then, the huge bear pounced at the Old Leopard. However, before it could touch the Old Leopard's fur, it was blocked by a petite human woman. Needless to say, this human woman was Leng Ruoxue. Leng Ruoxue blocked the giant bear's path. Before the giant bear was completely enraged, she said directly, "Big guy, I'm your opponent." "What?" Upon hearing this, the leader of the giant bears looked down at Leng Ruoxue. It could not imagine that this human woman, who was not even as thick as its arm, would actually dare to stop it. Could it be that this little human did not know that he could send her flying out of Floating Cloud Mountain with a single kick? Was she not afraid? "I'm your opponent." Seeing the suspicious expression on the leader of the giant bears, Leng Ruoxue felt that the fellow in front of her did not understand what she was saying, so she repeated herself. However, hearing the same words for the second time, the giant bear leader was furious. "You bastard! I'm not deaf, you don't have to repeat it twice." Leng Ruoxue fell silent. "If you understand, why don't you give me a reaction? Why do you have a blank expression?" When Uncle Long and the rest heard the giant bear's words and caught a glimpse of Leng Ruoxue's depressed look, they laughed in their hearts. Chapter 23-28, A Second-Class Disability in the Eyes of the Giant Bear. 1. However, even though Uncle Long and the rest were laughing in their hearts, they did not dare to show it on their faces. Otherwise, they would be in deep trouble if that last Leng Ruoxue got angry. However, did they think that Leng Ruoxue would not know that they were laughing in their hearts just because they did not laugh out loud? If he really thought that way, then he was wrong. It was just that Leng Ruoxue didn't have the time to find trouble with them. She had placed all her attention on the big stupid bear in front of her. That damn stupid bear, he actually dared to talk to her in a disdainful tone. So what if she said it twice? Was it illegal? Leng Ruoxue's heart was burning with anger. Following that, she looked at the giant bear in disdain and said, "Are you deaf? I thought you were old and had bad hearing, so you didn't know what I was talking about. Otherwise, why was there no reaction? Or rather, you're just too slow. You despicable human. I didn't want to hurt you because you're so petite, but now that you've provoked me, I'll show you my true reaction." The leader of the bears was provoked by Leng Ruoxue and immediately flew into a rage. In reality, the reason why it did not react to Leng Ruoxue was not only because it did not understand why Leng Ruoxue dared to stop it, but also because bears were not that sensitive. In addition, it was still thinking about the reason why Leng Ruoxue had stopped it. With all these factors combined, its reaction was naturally even slower. However, it clearly knew that its reaction was slower than the other beasties, and it was unwilling to be spoken out so directly by a human. Therefore, the giant bear was enraged, and the consequences would be very serious. In the next second, the leading giant bear's hill-sized body immediately pounced towards the petite Leng Ruoxue. Leng Ruoxue had become its main target. If it did not teach this human woman a lesson, how could it continue to live in Floating Cloud Mountain in the future? With this thought in mind, the giant bear did not show any mercy to Leng Ruoxue. Its palm leaf fan-like bear paws swung left and right, bringing with them a sharp wind. Unfortunately, it could not even touch a single hair on Leng Ruoxue. Leng Ruoxue dodged left and right, her body was extremely agile. Not long after, the leader of the giant bears was drenched in sweat. The giant bear panted heavily and soon became so tired that it could only stand on the spot and pant. However, its pair of copper-like fierce eyes glared at Leng Ruoxue even more fiercely. Seeing this, Leng Ruoxue's smile became even more blue as she encouraged, "Big stupid bear, hurry up and run. Don't stop, I'm still waiting for you to finish me off." These infuriating words almost made the leader of the bear spit out blood. Its eyes widened even more. However, its body was huge to begin with, and after chasing Leng Ruoxue for so long, it really had no strength left. At this moment, the bear, who was filled with hatred, waved its huge paw and said to the anxious clansmen behind it, "Everyone, attack. Teach this ugly monster a good lesson." Ugly? Was he talking about her? Hearing these 3 words, Leng Ruoxue fell silent. She had even forgotten to listen to the giant bear's reactions as she stood rooted to the ground. Although she had long known that some beasts had a different sense of beauty from humans, and also knew that this was definitely not the first time a beast had called her ugly, and of course, it would not be the last time, but every time she heard a beast call her that with a face full of disgust, she still could not help but feel confused. And it wasn't just her. Any human who heard these 3 words from a bear's mouth would probably be unable to remain calm. Mo Yen and the others were also dumbfounded. Thanks in comparison, Uncle Long and Old Leopard were the calmest. Furthermore, their eyes were fixed on the giant bears. As soon as the giant bears made their move and were about to surround the petrified Leng Ruoxue, Uncle Long and Old Leopard rushed out like 2 sharp blades and blocked the giant bears. At this moment, Leng Ruoxue had also regained her senses. Her beautiful eyes glanced at the leading giant bear, who was still unaware of the impending danger, and said to Uncle Long, "Uncle Long, you watch the battle first. I'll deal with these bears." "Little girl. There are quite a few of these bears, Uncle Long will help you take care of a few. I don't want you to be tired," Uncle Long said worriedly. He was mainly afraid that Shuai would be provoked by these bears. If these bears took advantage of a loophole, Shuai would be in danger. "Uncle Long, I'm fine. I can handle it." After speaking, Leng Ruoxue turned her attention to the bears. She couldn't be bothered to waste any more time with them. Floating in mid-air, she threw the fire-type divine energy in her hand at the huge brown bear. The huge fireballs were as dense as meteors and emitted a terrifying temperature. Uncle Long and the others immediately retreated when they saw this, and a trace of sympathy appeared in their hearts for those giant bears who were seeking death. What a pitiful guy. He had really angered Shuai. Otherwise, Shuai wouldn't have directly killed him. Those who had seen Leng Ruoxue's terrifying flames naturally knew how powerful those flames were. It was a pity that the giant bears were too confident in their own defense. Hence, other than feeling a little hot, they did not think much of it. After each of the giant bears put up a defense for themselves, they were like bystanders, admiring the dazzling fireballs. But when they saw the fireballs break through their defense and come in their direction, they really panicked. The giant bears continued to defend in a flurry, but how could their defense be faster than the fireballs? Before the second wave of defense was launched, the fireballs had already pounced on them. In an instant, dozens of giant bears were set on fire. Arg! It hurts. Pained howls could be heard from the sea of fire. Leng Ruoxue patted her fair hands and laughed, "It's done, we're done. Ugh. When everyone heard this, they couldn't help but wipe their sweat. You're not going to settle it. However, these bears were in for it. Moreover, they seem to be here to subdue these bears, right? He shouldn't be here to eat roasted bear paws. But now, not to mention a roasted bear paw, it had directly become a roasted bear. Little girl, are you planning to burn them to death? The old leopard couldn't help but ask, not daring to look at the terrible state of the giant bears. Although the leopard clan and the beast clan of the Floating Clouds Mountain had some disputes, they were all beasts. Seeing that these bears were about to become roasted bears, the kind old leopard still couldn't bear it. It was not to say that it was a woman's mercy, but that there was no irreconcilable enmity between them. Therefore, the old leopard naturally did not want to see these bears become roasted bears. Beasts were not as ungrateful as some humans. There were few ungrateful ones in the beast clan. Most of the beasts were grateful to their benefactors. Otherwise, Old Leopard would not have asked for mercy for these unlucky bears. Do you want to eat roasted bear paws? Leng Ruoshua laughed but did not answer. No, I don't. The old leopard was very honest. Although leopards were carnivores, they only ate weak and unintelligent small beasts. As for bears, they had never eaten them before and would not eat them. After all, in their eyes, eating highly intelligent beasts was the behavior of the devil. Chapter 23-29, A Second-Class Disability in the Eyes of the Giant Bear. 2, I see. Then I can only not burn them to death. Leng Ruoshua laughed evilly. Hearing this, Old Leopard was relieved. The little girl's words of not burning them to death meant that those big guys' lives were saved. However, they might suffer a lot of physical pain, but it was still better than losing their lives. Old Leopard was very open-minded about this. Naturally, Leng Ruoshua was a woman of her words. When she felt that the time was almost up, she retracted her flames. Very quickly, the giant bear, which had been burnt to a pitch-black state, appeared before everyone. When the crowd saw this scene, they felt even more sympathy for these giant bears. Poor big guy. It seemed that the thick long hair on his body that could withstand the cold had been burned clean. However, his skin looked much smoother now, except it had turned black. These bears had also fainted from the pain. Leng Ruoshua threw a large ice-cold water ball at the leading bear. Not long after, the bear with the most serious injuries slowly opened its heavy eyelids under the stimulation of the cold. This time, the way it looked at Leng Ruoshua was filled with fear. What are you doing? Get away from me. The leader of the giant bears looked at Leng Ruoshua, who was slowly approaching him, in fear. It dragged its heavily injured body and crawled on the ground with a face full of fear, trying to get away from this human demon. Don't be afraid, I just want to ask you a question. Leng Ruoshua smiled as she stood in front of the giant bear, speaking in a friendly manner. I don't know anything, don't ask me. When the leader of the giant bears heard this, he was so frightened that he shook his head repeatedly. He kept retreating, hoping to stay as far away from this terrifying human, Leng Ruoshua. The damage this human woman had caused to his heart was too deep. The moment he thought of those terrifying flames that he could not defend against, he had the urge to bang his head against them. At least, it was better than being burned to death alive. If you don't ask, then who do you ask? Leng Ruoshua continued to smile. I don't know. You can ask anyone but me. The giant bear shook its head in fear, and bean-sized tears fell from its eyes. Then, it burst into tears again. It was really too terrifying. Leng Ruoshua looked at the huge bear that was bawling its eyes out in front of her. She was completely speechless. Wasn't this bear still full of vigor just a while ago? Why did it wither in such a short time? This made her quite disappointed. Stop crying. I just want to ask you, how am I ugly? Leng Ruoshua couldn't take it anymore and roared. However, her words made Uncle Long and the others speechless. Just to ask this question, he scared the bear to this extent. That's a skill, right? When the giant bear heard Len Ruoxia's words, it blinked its eyes continuously and whispered, "You don't have any hair, you're not tall enough, and your skin color isn't very healthy. You can't give birth to our offspring, so in our eyes, you're a second-class disabled, an unqualified ugly woman." After it honestly expressed its thoughts, the giant bear was still shivering in fear. It was afraid that Len Ruoxia would set it on fire again in a fit of anger. If that happened, it would not be far from death. However, Len Ruoxia was even more speechless after hearing the giant bear's words. All right. She was a second-class disabled person. You bastard. This was clearly using a bear's sense of beauty to demand humans. She was a human, why did she need so much fur? Why did it have to be so high? Why was he so black? If she really looked like this, she would probably cry to death. Thanks, and at this moment, she was also a little angry with herself. She knew that some beasts had a different sense of beauty from humans, so why was she taking a bear so seriously? Wouldn't that be looking for trouble? At the thought of this, Len Ruoxia went straight to the point. Big stupid bear, we've come here to subdue you. What else do you losers have to say? Do you want to resist to the end or tactfully surrender? What can we say? If we don't surrender, will you let us go? Even though the giant bear leader's reaction was not as fast as the other beasties, it was not stupid. The difference in strength between it and Len Ruoxia allowed it to make a wise decision without even thinking. I won T. Len Ruoxia was very clear. Then what other choice do we have? We can only surrender. The leader of the giant bears said dejectedly. Then, it couldn't help but add, although we've surrendered, if the other beast clans on the Floating Clouds Mountain were to find out that a human has come to the Floating Clouds Mountain, they would definitely join forces. When it said this, its tone was obviously gloating. Unfortunately, Len Ruoxia only rolled her eyes at it indifferently and said, "There's no need for you to worry about this. Now, with the exception of you big stupid bears, all the beasts in the entire Floating Clouds Mountain are my subordinates." Upon hearing this, the giant bear, who had been gloating a moment ago, was stunned and speechless for a long time. When it finally reacted and wanted to ask more, the old leopard patted its head sympathetically and comforted it, "My condolences. The white fox race and the wolf race are much more tactful than you." AI. The old leopard sighed again, his eyes full of sympathy for the big stupid bear. This guy was so confused about the situation, what should he do? However, the leading bear didn't understand the meaning of the old leopard's sigh. Instead, he pulled the old leopard's claws with a look of disbelief and asked shamelessly, "The beasts of the Floating Clouds Mountain, were they all subdued by these humans?" "Yes. Your bear tribe will be the last batch to be subdued," the old leopard said honestly. "How is that possible? Our Floating Clouds Mountain is as solid as a rock, as solid as an iron barrel. How could it be so easily broken through? It must be you, you traitor, who betrayed us. Isn't that right?" Although the giant bear had chosen to surrender, it still refused to believe the fact that the Floating Clouds Mountain had changed hands. Therefore, after hearing the old leopard's words, it could not help but question him loudly. The old leopard's answer to it was a big roll of his eyes. The old leopard looked up at the sky at a 45-degree angle. It was wrong. It shouldn't be too kind to sympathize with this stupid bear. This was a hopeless battle bear, not worthy of sympathy. With this thought in mind, the old leopard wagged his tail and left slowly. "Hey! Come back! Come back here! I haven't let you go yet." Seeing that the old leopard had left without giving him any face, the leader of the giant bears could not help roaring. However, old leopard didn't even look back. Seeing this, Uncle Long walked over and dragged the giant bear that was dozens of meters tall like he was carrying a chicken. "Let me teach you the rules." After saying that, the giant bear was dragged to a corner by Uncle Long. Then, everyone heard the sound of rustling, accompanied by some terrifying howls from time to time. However, everyone present was mentally strong, so when they heard the painful howls, they acted as if nothing had happened and did what they were supposed to do. Chapter 23:30, A Second-Class Disability in the Eyes of the Giant Bear. 3. On the other hand, the bears that had fainted were awakened by the cries of pain and the noise. However, when they woke up and saw Len Ruoxue, the bears fainted again. A moment later, the giant bear that Uncle Long had dragged out from the corner had a bigger head. Its eyes were so swollen that they were squinted into a line, and there was a trace of blood at the corner of its mouth. Uncle Long dragged the bear and threw it in front of Len Ruoxue. Before Uncle Long could say anything, the giant bear started howling, "Master! Master! Little bear was wrong. Little bear shouldn't have doubted your strength. Our floating cloud mountain is not an iron cylinder. Our place is made of paper that you can easily break with a light poke. Master, you are wise and brilliant. Under your wise leadership, our floating cloud mountain will definitely grow stronger and stronger. In time, our floating cloud mountain will definitely become the #1 major power in the divine realm." Little Bear is absolutely confident of this. Len Ruoxue was at a loss for words after being sucked up by such a huge bear. Her beautiful eyes looked at Uncle Long teasingly, as if to say, "Uncle Long, did you teach me to say such words?" "Ah. Schwer. It has nothing to do with me." Seeing the hidden meaning in Len Ruoxue's eyes, Uncle Long quickly clarified that he was not willing to be the scapegoat. Moreover, he didn't expect that the bear would make him so speechless. He couldn't help but give the bear a hard kick, and then scolded, "Say something useful. You bastard! Who allowed you to say this?" "Master, this little bear's sincerity can shine on the sun and moon." When the leading giant bear heard the word useful, it racked its brain to think of this sentence. However, its words made Len Ruoxue not know whether to laugh or cry. Could it be that in this bear's heart, the only useful thing was for it to kiss ass? To be honest, Len Ruoxue hated it when people flattered her. Therefore, she didn't resonate with the giant bear's words. Instead, she wanted to give it a few kicks. More importantly, she couldn't accept the fact that such a big bear called itself a little bear. At the thought of this, Len Ruoxue said, "Take your clansmen and find a place where no one is around. I don't want to see you now." Upon hearing this, the giant bear leader was filled with grief and anger. It looked at Len Ruoxue pitifully and said, "Master, why? What did little bear do wrong? Tell me and it'll definitely change." It couldn't be thrown into the cold palace before it could even perform. Beastie that was not liked by its master would have a very miserable end. Therefore, the leading bear felt that it must not end up like that. "You're too stingy." Len Ruoxue was speechless. This bear was truly capable of shaking the heavens and earth when it spoke. "Ah. Master, it'll change, it'll change. Don't make me find a place with no one around to stay, okay?" The leader of the giant bears begged pitifully. "You can't change it." Len Ruoxue glanced at the bear. "Master, I mean what I say. I guarantee that it will be changed." The leader of the giant bears raised his big bear paw and promised. "Oh, really? Since that's the case, I'll give you a chance. Let's start by not calling yourself a little bear." Len Ruoxue said after some thought. "If you're not called Little Bear, what should you call it?" The leader of the giant bears said in a conflicted tone. He. He's called Big Bear." The old leopard suggested. "Big bears aren't as friendly as little bears." The leader of the bears was not satisfied with being called Big Bear. When Len Ruoxue heard this, she felt as if there were more black lines on her forehead. "Don't you have a name?" Len Ruoxue asked helplessly. "No, I didn't." The leader of the giant bears spoke the truth, not at all feeling that it was embarrassing to not have a name. "Little girl, these bears are too lazy. He only knew how to sleep all day and had no chance to use his name, so, we usually call them Beery 1, Beery 2. And so on." Old Leopard explained with an evil smile. Then let's call him as we did before. Len Ruoshua nodded. She didn't want to get tangled up over the names of a few bears. Furthermore, there were too many beastie, so she could come up with a name. Therefore, she irresponsibly pushed away these hot potatoes. After deciding to continue using the old name, Len Ruoshua instructed Old Leopard to invite the White Fox clan leader and the Wolf clan leader over. They were preparing to leave the floating cloud mountain, so she had to give them some instructions. After receiving Old Leopard's notice, the Wolf clan's patriarch rushed over. However, the White Fox clan's patriarch had yet to arrive. Len Ruoshua was worried and sent the Wolf clan's patriarch to look for him as well. After a long time, the Leopard and the Wolf tribe's leader finally returned. As for the White Fox tribe's leader, he was carried over by the two of them. Len Ruoshua looked at the White Fox clan leader, who was curled up into a ball and pretending to be dead. She then turned to look at Old Leopard with suspicion. When Old Leopard saw this, he chuckled and said, "Little girl, this sly fox refused to come, so I had no choice but to work together with Chief Lang to tie it up and bring it here." "Thanks, White Fox clan leader, what's wrong?" Len Ruoshua was puzzled by the clan leader's bashful expression. "No, nothing. Master, I'm not feeling well. I don't want to see anyone." The White Fox clan leader whispered. "Uncomfortable? Where do you feel uncomfortable?" Len Ruoshua asked in concern. "No big deal." The White Fox clan leader continued, and she buried her head even deeper. "Master, this sly fox will feel uncomfortable for a few days every month. It's no problem." The Wolf clan leader laughed evilly when he saw this. Ugh! Hearing this, Len Ruoshua didn't know how to react. Could it be that the male beasts in the divine realm were different from what she knew? Just as Len Ruoshua was filled with suspicion, Old Leopard interrupted, "That's right. The White Fox clan leader will have those few days every month. Little girl, you don't have to worry." "You bastard. You guys only have a few days every month. I'm very normal, a normal male beast." As soon as Chief Lang and the Old Leopard finished speaking, the White Fox tribe leader, who had curled up into a ball, jumped up and pointed at them angrily. "Yo! Don't play dead." Seeing this, Old Leopard laughed evilly. "Arg! I don't have the face to see anyone. Don't stop me, let me die." The White Fox clan leader realized that she had been tricked after hearing what Old Leopard said. She quickly turned around and covered her face with her hands, looking as if she was about to commit suicide. However, even though it covered its face, its fur could not. Moreover, the long hair that had not fully grown out was still uneven and pockmarked, which was very unsightly. When Len Ruoshua caught a glimpse of this scene, she didn't need to guess to know that it was evil demon and Sang's doing. Otherwise, this white fox wouldn't be so calm. However, a fox that loved beauty was turned into such an ugly state. One could imagine how big of a blow this was to a certain fox. No wonder he didn't dare to meet anyone. However, even though this fox was a little ugly now, it didn't have to be so desperate, right? What a big deal. Len Ruoshua could not understand. At this time, the white fox, who was still on the verge of death, saw that no one was stopping it from committing suicide and felt a little embarrassed. Just as it was hesitating about how to end this, it heard its master's heavenly voice. "Are you done?" Len Ruoshua said, pretending to be impatient. I feel wronged." Upon hearing this, the white fox instantly returned to normal. However, its resentful blue eyes were still fixed on Len Ruoshua. Its red eyes were saying, "Master, please protect me." "Oh. How can you not feel aggrieved?" Len Ruoshua said cooperatively. "Do you want to turn around and beat us up?" All of a sudden, a cold male voice interrupted, giving the White Fox clan leader a fright. She could not help but feel a chill in her heart. Then, she saw the White Fox clan leader waving her hand and saying, "No need. No need. I won't feel aggrieved anymore." "Since you're not feeling aggrieved anymore, then quickly get over here and stand properly." Schwer has something to say to you. The demon continued to release cold air. When the White Fox and Wolf tribe leaders saw this, they quickly stood in a line and waited for their master's instructions. At this time, the demon turned to the giant bear who had been watching the show and roared, "What are you still standing there for? It's none of your business, right?" Arg! It wasn't he. No. Even though it had been shot, the leading bear did not dare to get angry or say anything. It could only obediently stand in a row with the other two. Leng Ruoxue could not help but laugh in her heart. The three of them seemed to have been scared out of their wits by the demon. In fact, she didn't know when the evildoer had taught them a lesson. However, since the evildoer was willing to be the white face, she wouldn't stop him. Following that, Leng Ruoxue directly said to the three in front of her, "We will leave Floating Cloud Mountain soon, Master, where are we going?" Before Leng Ruoxue could finish her sentence, the White Fox clan leader asked impatiently. "We are the ones leaving, not you. You will continue to stay here," Leng Ruoxue explained. Upon hearing this, the White Fox clan leader immediately howled at the top of her lungs, "Woo! Master, are you going to abandon us so soon? You said that I can stay by your side, how can you go back on your word?" The White Fox clan leader was heartbroken. It deeply felt that its infatuation had been heavily hurt, and it was so sad that it wanted to kill itself. "Just now. Why did you stop it? Who said I'm going to abandon you?" Leng Ruoxue said helplessly as she glanced at the bawling White Fox clan leader. Master said he was leaving and told us to stay here." The White Fox clan leader's blue eyes were filled with tears as she spoke with a bitter expression. Wasn't this the rhythm of being abandoned? It understood. Chapter 23:31, The White Tiger Race's Jittery State, 1, Yup. I'm asking you to stay here to guard the Floating Cloud Mountain. This is your territory after all, are you willing to give it up so easily? Leng Ruoxue glanced at the aggrieved White Fox clan leader and smiled. Give up on this place? Of course, the White Fox clan leader was not willing to do so. However, if staying here meant that she could not be by her master's side, she would have to think about it carefully. That was why it felt so conflicted. However, the Wolf tribe leader and the Bear tribe leader were not like that. To them, it didn't matter where they stayed. It would be even better if they could stay in a place they were familiar with. Therefore, the two of them were very satisfied with Leng Ruoxue's suggestion. They were staying here to protect their original territory. Otherwise, once they left, this place might be immediately occupied by foreign beasts. If that happened, wouldn't all their years and generations of beasts management go to waste? I will treat this place as my own branch in the future. Therefore, this place naturally needs someone to guard it. Of course, you will only be staying here temporarily. When you have cultivated an heir and can take charge of things on your own, you can decide whether you want to continue staying here or follow me. But at this stage, this place needs you very much. Leng Ruoxue continued when she saw that the three divine beasts did not say anything. Upon hearing this, the Wolf and Bear tribe leaders took the lead to express their willingness to stay here. The White Fox tribe leader, who had been struggling for a long time, also expressed his willingness to stay here and guard the territory for his master after careful consideration. However, he did not forget to emphasize that he was only staying here temporarily. After listening to the three divine beasts, Leng Ruoxue nodded her head in satisfaction. Then, she let the three divine beasts acknowledge her as their master before leaving the Floating Clouds Mountain with her group of people. Even after Leng Ruoxue and the others had walked far away, the White Fox clan leader was still looking in the direction of Leng Ruoxue and the others with tears in her eyes. She sobbed, "Master, wait for me. I'll be there soon. Aren't you afraid of getting beaten up again?" Hearing this, the Wolf clan's chief raised his eyebrows and said with a smirk. "Ah." The White Fox clan leader was filled with hatred when she heard this. This damned old wolf was really rubbing it in. It had almost forgotten about this matter, but it still had to remind it. It was really hateful, annoying, and hateful. Hee hee. Little White Fox, I think it's safer for you to stay in Floating Clouds Mountain. Your master's man or beast. You can't afford to offend any of them. At this time, Chief Xiong also reminded him with a kind face. Hearing this, the White Fox clan leader became even more indignant. Had these two detestable fellows been bribed so quickly? He didn't even care about their many years of friendship. It was really too sad. The White Fox clan leader felt indignant. Seeing this, the Wolf clan leader and the Bear clan leader patted its shoulder helplessly. The two of them then returned to their respective stations. They would be busy in the future. After the unification of the Floating Clouds Mountain, everyone would be as close as a family in the future. Naturally, there would be fewer conflicts. However, in this case, how to cultivate the fighting spirit of the beasts would become their top priority every day. Other than that, it was not appropriate for them to reveal the fact that they had acknowledged Leng Ruoxue as their master. Otherwise, the Floating Clouds Mountain would probably be attacked by the other beasts. When the Wolf and Bear tribe leaders thought of this, they felt that they had a heavy responsibility on their shoulders. They had a long way to go. Of course, the White Fox tribe leader, who was originally the leader of the three beasts, was ignored by them at this time. That old man was currently in the midst of a breakup and was not in a normal state of mind. Naturally, they could not count on him. Thanks after Leng Ruoxue and the rest left the Floating Cloud Mountain, they headed straight for the Snow Fox clan's territory, the Longevity Mountain. The Longevity Mountain was a snow mountain that had existed for 10,000 years. It was located to the north of the Divine Realm. Although it wasn't a land of bitter cold, the temperature there was extremely low all year round. It was the most suitable place for magical beasts that loved the cold to settle down. However, the White Tiger tribe was the largest power there. Thus, all the magical beasts that lived there were inextricably linked to the White Tiger tribe. To put it bluntly, they were the vassals of the White Tiger tribe. However, what attracted Leng Ruoxue the most was not the Snow Fox race or the White Tiger race. Instead, it was the supreme-grade cold attribute herbs there. Among them, the most expensive and most representative was, of course, the snow lotus. A snow lotus was naturally on a 10,000-year-old snow mountain. Jiang Ning and the other alchemists were quite excited about it. It should be known that when they needed snow lotuses, they would have to spend a lot of money to buy them or exchange them with the beasts living in the cold lands. Now that they could personally visit the snow mountain, they naturally wouldn't let this great opportunity go. However, Old Leopard didn't agree with their whimsical idea. The kind old leopard even reminded them tactfully, Snow Lotus, even if there's one, it's most likely already in the bag of the White Tiger race. Hence, I advise you all not to have too much hope. Leopard tribe leader, you're overthinking it. All natural treasures can only be obtained by those who are fated to. Although the White Tiger tribe is the local tyrant, the Snow Lotus that has gained sentience over 10,000 years ago might not be theirs. Leng Ruoxue was full of confidence as she smiled. Jiang Ning and the others agreed with her. But Old Leopard was speechless. Was a snow lotus that was over 10,000 years old that easy to encounter? It had lived for so many years, but it had never heard of a 10,000-year snow lotus in the immortal realm. Looking at their confident looks, Old Leopard suddenly felt that it was useless to say more. These people would not listen to him at all. Therefore, after reminding them, Old Leopard shut his mouth. Half a month later, Leng Ruoxue and the rest finally arrived near Longevity Mountain after a long and arduous journey. Even though they had yet to reach Longevity Mountain, Leng Ruoxue could already feel the temperature around her drop by quite a bit. She sent most of the people back to their houses, leaving behind only Evildoer, Sung, Uncle Long, and Jiang Ning, who had strongly requested to stay outside. In Jiang Ning's words, he was the vice president of the Alchemist Guild headquarters. If he were to encounter people from the White Tiger race, his identity would be very useful. He could definitely cover for them for a while. Actually, when she heard Jiang Ning's words, Leng Ruoxue really wanted to tell him that she didn't only have one vice president of the Alchemist Guild headquarters by her side. Therefore, he wasn't the only person who could remain outside. However, she knew how thick Jiang Ning's skin was, and it wasn't like Lu Yue and Shen Nua would fight with him over it. Thus, she only thought about it in her heart and didn't say it out loud. Following that, Leng Ruoxue carried Song and the four of them walked towards the Longevity Mountain. After half a day, Leng Ruoxue and the rest arrived at the foot of the Longevity Mountain. The temperature there was even lower. Jiang Ning was so cold that his entire body was shivering. Seeing him in this state, Leng Ruoxue advised him out of goodwill, however, before she could finish her sentence, she was interrupted by Jiang Ning. "I'm fine. I just can't get used to it." Jiang Ning knew what Leng Ruoxue wanted to say and quickly replied. Although he was afraid of the cold, he would rather stay outside and search for medicinal herbs. After all, not everyone had the chance to come to the territory of the magical beasts. Furthermore, this was the base camp of the White Tiger clan, one of the four great kings of the divine realm. He didn't want to miss this opportunity. Chapter 2332, The White Tiger Race's Jittery State, 2. If you can't stand the cold, just say it. Don't force yourself. Seeing this, Leng Ruoxue had no choice but to speak up. Although she didn't understand why Jiang Ning was so insistent, she respected his decision. Hearing this, Jiang Ning nodded. Then, he put on a layer of defense and suddenly felt much warmer. "How do we get in?" After he felt better, Jiang Ning couldn't help but ask. "Of course, we'll walk in," Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. "Ah. Of course, I know that we have to walk in. What I want to ask is, how are we going and where are we going?" Jiang Ning was speechless. He couldn't just walk in like this, could he? This was the White Tiger Race's territory. If they were to enter just like that, they might be surrounded and attacked by the White Tiger Race. Thinking up to this point, Jiang Ning couldn't help but take another look at Leng Ruoxue's beautiful face. There was no one in the divine world who didn't know of her face. Therefore, this little girl didn't even bother to disguise herself. If they really went in like this, the White Tiger Race might just appear after a few steps. Jiang Ning couldn't help but cover his face. He was very suspicious that this girl was here to provoke him. However, such a bold and open provoker was rare in the immortal realm. In reality, the truth was revealed in Jiang Ning. Since Leng Ruoxue had come here, she naturally didn't want to be sneaky. From the start, she had never thought of hiding her identity. She felt that since she was already here, no matter what identity they had, they would definitely have a conflict with the White Tiger Race. Unless the White Tiger Race turned a blind eye to their arrival, pretending not to know anything. But with the White Tiger Race's status, was that even possible? Since it was impossible, why should she be so careful? She might as well just swagger in. The current Leng Ruoxue would never have thought that the White Tiger Race would be so conflicted because of their sudden arrival. "Follow this path and go straight in." Leng Ruoxue smiled faintly, then pointed to a flat and wide road in front of them. This road should be the official road leading to the top of Longevity Mountain. It was also said that only guests who were invited to the White Tiger Race would leave. Although they weren't invited guests, the White Tiger Race shouldn't say anything about it. That was what Leng Ruoxue thought, but not Jiang Ning. Looking at the path that Leng Ruoxue was pointing at, cold sweat started to flow down Jiang Ning's forehead. This was the rhythm of courting death. "Did you? Swear, you're afraid that the White Tiger Race doesn't know that we're here and want to send them a message?" Jiang Ning was speechless. According to his understanding, shouldn't they have sneaked up the mountain and first look for snow lotuses? Then, they would quietly take care of the Snow Fox tribe and slip down the mountain. However, from the looks of it, Leng Ruoxue didn't want to act secretly at all. Instead, she had the intention to make a big move. Such a fact made him unable to accept it. It made him even more suspicious. Was it because he was getting old? Was that why there was a generation gap between him and these young people? "Thanks, how can that be? I just feel that since we've come to the Longevity Mountain, it won't be easy to hide from the White Tiger Race. Since that's the case, why should we let ourselves suffer? Besides, don't forget that we still have to find Shuel Yen. Do you really think that the white tiger race wouldn't know anything about an outsider wandering around the myriad longevity mountain? Leng Ruoxue explained with a smile. After hearing what Leng Ruoxue said, even though Jiang Ning felt that it made sense, he still felt that something was amiss. However, he could not figure out what it was at the moment, so he could only let Leng Ruoxue lead him by the nose. Seeing that Jiang Ning had nodded, Leng Ruoxue waved her hand and said, "Let's go." With that, Leng Ruoxue pulled the evildoer along and walked to the front. This road was worthy of being the official road leading to the peak of Longevity Mountain. It was wide and flat. Although the road was covered with ice and snow, it was not slippery at all. Leng Ruoxue walked with ease. However, she could also keenly sense that a few pairs of eyes were watching them. However, she acted as if she did not notice anything and continued to walk calmly. On the other hand, Jiang Ning wasn't as calm as she was. Along the way, Jiang Ning's nerves had been tense and he had to look around vigilantly from time to time. When Uncle Long saw this, he patted Jiang Ning's shoulder and said, "Sir Jiang Ning, there's no need to be so nervous. Just follow Shuer. You'll be safe." "Oh." Jiang Ning nodded absent-mindedly, but his eyes were still alert. At this moment, the roar of a tiger rang out from the snowy mountain again. He warned in a threatening manner, "Shuer, we've been discovered. Sir Jiang Ning, it's just a tiger howling at the top of its lungs. It might want to fight, or it might be courting. So, you don't have to be nervous. We haven't been discovered." Leng Ruoxue lied with her eyes wide open. In reality, the white tiger race had been watching them for a long time. It was just that they had not taken any action yet. Hence, she had pretended not to know. Ah! Jiang Ning was speechless when he heard these words that were obviously trying to fool him. Was he that stupid that he couldn't even tell whether it was a message, a fight, or a courtship? However, seeing that Leng Ruoxue didn't seem to mind, he could only act like he didn't care. After all, with his status, even if the white tiger race discovered them, they probably wouldn't dare to do anything to them. After thinking like this, he finally calmed down. After Jiang Ning returned to normal, Leng Ruoxue and the other three became more casual. It was as if they had really come to the Longevity Mountain for a tour. They looked here and there, without any fixed route. Naturally, the White Tiger Race's scouts had also reported back to the White Tiger Race about their method of travel. The highest peak of the Longevity Mountain was also the White Tiger Race's base. At this moment, everyone from the White Tiger King to the elders of the White Tiger Race had gathered in the White Tiger Race's conference room. Furthermore, all of them had grave expressions on their faces and the atmosphere was extremely heavy. At the very start, no one spoke. But after hearing the reports from the White Tiger Race's scouts time and time again, the White Tiger Race's Grand Elder finally couldn't sit still any longer. "Your Majesty, since that Leng Ruoxue has come to the Longevity Mountain, why didn't she come to the White Tiger Race's encampment? Could it be that you're not here to take revenge?" The first elder said with a worried expression. He knew more about the grudges between the clan and Leng Ruoxue. Hence, he was nervous about Leng Ruoxue's sudden arrival. The reason for his nervousness was not entirely because of Leng Ruoxue, but more importantly, the Totoro by her side. The Totoro, whose identity they still could not figure out, had dared to destroy the Divine Lord's estate, and twice at that. They could not help but be wary. The White Tiger Race's base was not as sturdy as the God Lord's estate. "Great Elder, what are you saying? Do we have a grudge against that human, Leng Ruoxue? Why did she come to us for revenge? If he wanted to find someone, he should find God Lord Mist Ripple. You can find us." As soon as the Grand Elder's words fell, a voice of opposition immediately rang out. The person who spoke was the Grand Elder's archenemy, the second elder of the White Tiger Race. This old White Tiger had a one-sided belief that their White Tiger Race did not have any direct conflict with Leng Ruoxue. Therefore, they could not be considered her enemies. At least, compared to God Lord Fog Deep, the little things that the White Tiger Race had done were nothing. Chapter 23-33, The White Tiger Race's Jittery State, 3. As for the matter from hundreds of thousands of years ago, the white tiger didn't think that it had much to do with his white tiger race. According to what he had heard from his elders, they had only attacked their own clansmen and hadn't even touched a single hair on Lord Ye's head. The one who had killed Lord Yu was God Lord Fog Ripple. Therefore, this debt could not be counted on their heads. It was precisely because of this reason that the old white tiger would naturally assume that they did not have any deep grudges with Leng Ruoxue. The people they had sent to attack Leng Ruoxue's group could also be seen as being coerced by God Lord Fog Ripple. They were also victims because the two reverent god-level experts they had sent had yet to recover from their injuries. Unfortunately, this old white tiger's thoughts were very good, but would the reality really be as he wished? The answer was no. Even if they did not directly attack Master Yu that year, they could not escape the fact that they were Wu Xian's accomplices. Hence, it was impossible for Leng Ruoxue to let go of what happened that year and act as if nothing had happened. However, the current Leng Ruoxue naturally didn't know what these old white tigers were thinking. Otherwise, she would have scoffed at them. And at this moment, after hearing the second elder's words, the white tiger race's first elder was rather speechless towards the second elder's thoughts. To deceive himself to this extent, first elder didn't know what to say. Therefore, he simply remained silent and did not argue with the second elder. Otherwise, he would definitely be angered to death by this pestering old man. At this time, the white tiger king, who was sitting at the top, said impatiently, "I didn't ask you to come here to talk about this. I just want you to think about it. If Leng Ruoxue comes knocking on our door, what should we do? What else can I do?" Of course, he would fight back. If not, the outside world will definitely think that our white tiger race is easy to bully. So, Your Majesty, if Leng Ruoxue really makes a move, we can't hold back either. Otherwise, where would the dignity of our white tiger race be? When the second elder heard this, he quickly said in a high-spirited manner, "Fight back. All right, I'll leave the Totoro to you." The white tiger king said to the second elder. However, he couldn't help but curse in his heart. If it wasn't for the Totoro, he would have attacked Leng Ruoxue long ago. Would he have allowed them to swagger into his territory? However, when he heard from his spy that Leng Ruoxue was carrying a Totoro, he dispelled that thought and hid in his clan. It wasn't that he didn't want to make a move, but he wasn't confident that he could defeat that small, unremarkable Totoro. Even God Lord Mist Ripple could only turn a blind eye to the Totoro, much less him. However, the White Tiger King was even more regretful that it had gathered these elders to discuss a plan. None of these old things could do anything. As for the second elder, who was originally in high spirits, he was dumbfounded after hearing his king's words. He didn't want to deal with that Totoro. Everyone in the divine realm was already familiar with the great name of that Totoro. As the second elder of the White Tiger clan, what he knew would only be more than others, and definitely not less than others. Thus, he naturally had an additional layer of fear towards that Totoro. Now that he heard the king say this, the second elder wanted to just faint. Glancing at the second elder's cowardly appearance, the White Tiger King snorted coldly and ordered, "Continue to send people to monitor Leng Ruoxue's group closely. If there are any changes, report immediately." With that, the White Tiger King left the group of elders present and turned to leave. The White Tiger spies who received the order naturally paid more attention to Leng Ruoxue and the rest. However, none of the White Tigers dared to make a move. As for Leng Ruoxue and the rest, they naturally continued with their own business. They had no idea about the White Tiger race's jittery behavior. However, even if Leng Ruoxue knew about it, she would probably just laugh it off. After all, their target this time was the Snow Fox tribe. Although she really wanted to wipe out the White Tiger race, the four great beast kings were all on the same side at critical moments. Leng Ruoxue didn't want to go up against all four of them at the same time, and the timing wasn't right either. If by any chance, she gave Fo Xian another opportunity, she would be depressed to death. Hence, he could only let the White Tiger race off this time. Of course, if the White Tiger race delivered themselves to her doorstep, she wouldn't mind. It was a pity that the white tiger race didn't know what she was thinking. Hence, from the moment she ascended the mountain, the white tiger race had already been on high alert. Thanks Len Ruoxue and the rest wandered around Longevity Mountain for a few days. Although they came up empty-handed, they were not discouraged. The snow lotus was not easy to find. When they were resting, Len Ruoxue even took out a house and placed it on the empty ground. After that, the four of them entered the house. This scene was naturally reported to the white tiger race by the spies. When they had nothing to do, Len Ruoxue would invite everyone to go hunting in the mountains. Even though many small animals were hibernating, they could still catch some small rabbits. However, as the Grand Elder and the others continued to enter and leave, the eyes of the White Tiger race's scouts couldn't even keep up with them. When the White Tiger King received the news, it gritted its teeth in hatred. Fuck! How many people did the other party have? With that house, the White Tiger King had no way to determine the number of people on the other side. Naturally, he was even more vigilant towards Len Ruoxue and her group. He also passed down orders for his clansmen to stay away from Len Ruoxue and her group and not to provoke them for no reason. In an instant, other than the spies who were still secretly monitoring Len Ruoxue and her group, all the clansmen of the White Tiger race obediently stayed in their encampment. Even though Len Ruoxue was not sure of the White Tiger King's orders, she could clearly feel that the number of gazes on them had decreased significantly after living on the Longevity Mountain for a few days. On a certain day, Len Ruoxue was still leading the team around the snowy mountain. Old Leopard, who could now walk out openly, could not help but ask, "Little girl, you still haven't given up after searching for so many days? Even if there is a snow lotus on the Longevity Mountain, it's most likely in the hands of the White Tiger tribe. So, if you really want to find the snow lotus, I think it's better for you to go rob the White Tiger tribe. That would be much faster." Rob the White Tiger race? That's a good idea. Len Ruoxue agreed with Old Leopard's words. However, the Old Leopard who made the suggestion was speechless because he had only said it casually. He had no intention of letting Len Ruoxue rob the other party. In the Old Leopard's heart, the White Tiger race was a colossus that no one would dare to provoke. However, he had clearly underestimated Len Ruoxue's courage. He thought about it and realized that this girl did not even care about the Divine Lord's estate. She had no reason to be afraid of the White Tiger race. With this idea in mind, Old Leopard truly felt that it was a good idea. Although it felt that its idea was good, the White Tiger King, who had received the report from its spies, gritted its teeth in hatred. "You bastard!" That audacious Old Leopard had actually suggested Len Ruoxue to rob their White Tiger race. He must be tired of living. However, that detestable Old Leopard was with Len Ruoxue. Hence, he really did not dare to do anything to him. However, it was even more impossible for him to let Len Ruoxue and the others rob him. The White Tiger King was so anxious that it was pacing back and forth in its own palace. He had also heard of Len Ruoxue's infamous reputation as a bandit. Hence, he was truly afraid that Len Ruoxue would do what the Old Leopard had suggested and rob him. No. He had to come up with a good plan. He could not let Len Ruoxue have the treasures that he had kept for so many years. Just the thought of it made his heart ache. If that wretched girl really came to rob him, he would be so heartbroken that he would vomit blood. Looking at how his king was so anxious that the floor was about to be worn out, the White Tiger race's first elder, who had hesitated for a long time, cut off all means of retreat and opened his mouth. "King, calm down. Since Len Ruoxue and the rest are looking for snow lotuses, why don't we give them a few? As long as she doesn't come to find trouble with us, what's the harm in giving her a few snow lotuses? Moreover, perhaps after obtaining the snow lotus, their group will take the initiative to leave. At that time, our clan will be safe. Are you saying that I should give them a few snow lotuses to send them away?" After hearing the great elder's words, the White Tiger King repeated. Although he was still unable to confirm the true purpose of Len Ruoxue and the others' visit, he at least knew that they were only wandering around the snowy mountain for the snow lotus. However, what if they didn't come to the Longevity Mountain just for the snow lotus? Or rather, if they still refused to leave after getting the snow lotus, what would they do then? The White Tiger King was in a dilemma. Although he wanted to agree with the first elder, he could not completely put his heart at ease. He was even more afraid that those people would not leave even after taking the snow lotus. If that happened, he would not be able to get rid of the disaster even if he lost all his money. Your Majesty, we can't be sure of Leng Ruoxue and the rest's true motive. Furthermore, they are currently searching the entire mountain for the snow lotus. Hence, we can only give it a try. If they leave now, that would be for the best. If they don't leave, that would be enough to prove that they have other plans. It would be easier for us to make early preparations. What do you think? The Great Elder understood the White Tiger King's intentions. However, they had no other choice but to test him. They could only ask Leng Ruoxue personally. However, that was obviously unrealistic. AI. Alright. Well, do as you say, but who's going to send them the snow lotus? The White Tiger King muttered to himself for a moment before he agreed. However, the person who would be sending the snow lotus to Leng Ruoxue was giving him a huge headache. No one's going to send him off. The Great Elder said. What? The White Tiger King's face was filled with question marks. It didn't quite understand what the first elder meant. Chapter 23:34, The Ferret Tribe was wiped out. 1. It's best if we don't let Leng Ruoxue and the others know that we've already discovered their existence. Hence, we only need to place the snow lotus on a fixed cliff and wait for them to discover it. There's no need for us to appear. The Great Elder said slowly as he looked at the White Tiger King's confused face. Will this work? The White Tiger King asked suspiciously. All right. Why not? We won't be too deliberate in doing this, so they won't know. What we need to do is to find a way for them to discover the snow lotuses we placed. The first elder said with absolute certainty. I see. Great Elder, who do you think is the most reliable person to handle this matter? The White Tiger King furrowed its brows again. If this matter was to be handled well and secretively, not allowing Leng Ruoxue and the others to discover any clues, then the person who did this must not be too weak. Otherwise, all their efforts would be in vain. Your Majesty, I'll go personally. First Elder thought for a moment. He wouldn't be at ease if he let someone else handle this matter. Then he'll have to trouble Great Elder. The White Tiger King nodded in satisfaction after listening to the First Elder. Then, First Elder turned around and left. In the next few days, Leng Ruoxue and the rest discovered snow lotuses one after another. Even though the snow lotuses were not very old, to Leng Ruoxue, the age was not really that important. After finding the snow lotus, Old Leopard also shut his mouth. However, the suspicion on its face didn't ease. Instead, it became even more serious. It was so strange. They had been searching in the snow mountain for several days, but they had not found even a leaf of the snow lotus. However, they had found several snow lotus in the past few days. Old Leopard would never believe that they were so lucky. This was because it was impossible for such a thing to happen on the Longevity Mountain. However, in order not to dispel the enthusiasm of Leng Ruoxue and the rest, it did not voice out its suspicions. However, the serious expression on its face could not be hidden from Leng Ruoxue. Leng Ruoxue sat in the garden, admiring the old leopard's frowning face in the corner. She was in a very good mood. Ugh! Would she be too disloyal? He was actually treating Old Leopard's sorrow as a joke. However, she didn't tell Old Leopard the origin of the snow lotus because she found that Old Leopard's frowning and thinking look was so lovely. At this moment, Jiang Ning walked over to Leng Ruoxue and suggested with a drooling expression, "Shuer, our harvest these past few days has been quite bountiful. I think we can wander around the snow mountain for a few more days, and maybe we can find more snow lotuses. You still want to spin? I think we should stop while we're ahead." Hearing this, Old Leopard stood up and said, "Why? It wasn't easy for us to have some gains these past 2 days, it's such a pity to give up like this. Jiang Ning said disapprovingly. It was better to treat him as a greedy person because such an opportunity was too rare. If you don't give up, you might attract the attention of the white tiger race. At that time, you won't be able to smile anymore if you're surrounded. Old Leopard glanced at Jiang Ning and said indifferently. Shuer, what do you think? Jiang Ning didn't agree with Old Leopard's words. Therefore, he turned his gaze to Leng Ruoxue and asked for her opinion. I feel that if we want to find Snow Lotus again, we can only go and rob the white tiger race. Leng Ruoxue deliberately paused for a moment before she smiled. Thanks, Both Old Leopard and Jiang Ning were speechless. Could the white tiger race be robbed so easily? However, Jiang Ning couldn't deny that it was a good idea. The Old Leopard was more uneasy, for he didn't know whether it was the right idea. However, if Leng Ruoxue really wanted to rob the white tiger race, it would definitely be the main culprit. Hee. I'm just joking, I don't have any plans to provoke the white tiger race right now. Of course, if they take the initiative to provoke me, then it's none of my business. Leng Ruoxue's beautiful eyes swept across the two of them as she smiled. I think that the white tiger race wouldn't want to come and provoke you. After hearing these words, Jiang Ning said with certainty. It had already been so many days. If the white tiger race wanted to appear, they would have done so long ago. How could they still tolerate them wandering around the Longevity Mountain? Maybe. Leng Ruoxue nodded and continued, let's rest for today and continue tomorrow. This place shouldn't be far from the Snow Fox tribe. Shuer, what do you plan to do with the Snow Fox race? Jiang Ning couldn't help asking. Snow Shadow can do whatever he wants. Leng Ruoxue said calmly. The relaxed tone in her voice made Jiang Ning feel like he was about to break out in cold sweat. If we were to cause trouble for the Snow Fox tribe, I wonder if the White Tiger tribe would step in to help us. Jiang Ning asked curiously. You'll know when the time comes. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. All right then. Jiang Ning nodded helplessly, but he was really curious. However, when he saw Tsang sleeping in Leng Ruoxue's arms, he couldn't help but feel sympathy for the white tiger race. With this person around, if the white tiger race really made a move, they probably wouldn't be able to gain any advantage. As he thought of this, Jiang Ning started to gloat. Although he had seen quite a few interesting things recently, he still felt that the beasts were not of a high enough grade. Hence, he was looking forward to the battle between the best beasts in the divine world and Leng Ruoxue's group. Hee. It would surely be very exciting. The next morning, Leng Ruoxue and the rest set off as scheduled. In the morning, the temperature on Longevity Mountain was very low. Many people around Leng Ruoxue didn't like the cold weather. Thus, the group that set off still only had Leng Ruoxue, the demon, Uncle Long, Jiang Ning, and Sung. After walking around the Longevity Mountain for a few days, they had left their footprints in almost half of the mountain. Now, they were gradually approaching the territory of the magical beasts. Shuer, the ferret tribe's territory should be up ahead. Uncle Long pointed to a place not far away. The ferret clan? How's his strength? Leng Ruoxue asked with a smile. Its strength is very ordinary. However, the ferret wins in cuteness. Therefore, it is the favorite pet of many women in the divinity. Uncle Long explained. So, the ferret can be sold for money? Leng Ruoxue asked with great interest. Ah. Yes. However, the snow ferret tribe is under the protection of the white tiger tribe. Therefore, there aren't many humans who dare to take the risk to capture them. Uncle Long's forehead was full of black lines. As he said this, he couldn't help but wonder if Shuer wanted to catch a ferret and sell it for money. In the eyes of others, the ferret might be able to fetch a good price. However, to Leng Ruoxue, that small amount of money was not even worth looking at. Oh, really? Then I'll go and try. Hearing this, Leng Ruoxue laughed evilly. However, Uncle Long and the rest understood what she meant. Shuer wanted to use the ferret tribe to test the reaction of the white tiger tribe. Chapter 2335, The Ferret Tribe Was Wiped Out, 2, AI. The Pitiful White Tiger Race. Unless you stay at home, you'll definitely be the unlucky ones. Such a fact caused Uncle Long's heart to surge with sympathy for the white tiger race. No one had it easy. Uncle Long sighed. After Len Ruoxue made her decision, she took the lead and entered the ferret clan's territory. However, what made her speechless was that she had almost walked through the entire ferret tribe's territory, but there was not a single ferret to be found. Are the ferrets hibernating? Len Ruoxue turned around and asked Uncle Long and the others in frustration. This. Maybe. Uncle Long said hesitantly. Could he say that the ferrets might have hidden themselves? Girl, it doesn't matter if they're hibernating or not. We just need to find their cave. We can definitely catch them there. Song Qing raised his eyes and suggested. What does a ferret's cave look like? Len Ruoxue asked with a face full of question marks. Hee. Do you see the small snow hills on the snow? There should be a ferret's cave at the bottom of each hill. Azure pointed to a small pile of snow not far away. Song had only wanted to tell Len Ruoxue how to find a ferret, but little did he know that his guidance had caused the trembling ferrets in their caves to grit their teeth in hatred. Although these ferrets had never left their caves, they were very clear about the activities of Len Ruoxue and the rest on the Longevity Mountain. Furthermore, they had also received a warning from the white tiger race to stay at home and not go out. This was because the white tiger race had already made it clear that if a ferret fell into Len Ruoxue's hands, they would not come out to save them. As such, the timid ferret clan did not dare to run around. Hence, ever since Len Ruoxue ascended the snow mountain, they had been hiding obediently in their own caves. They had also heard everything Len Ruoxue had said outside their territory, so they did not dare to show their faces. Unfortunately, even if they did not show their faces, it did not mean that Len Ruoxue and the others would not take the initiative to find trouble with them. They were clearly hiding well and didn't provoke anyone, but they still suffered an undeserved disaster. You bastard! Was it because they were cute? All the ferrets were enraged. It wasn't their fault that they were cute, so why should they bear the terrible consequences? At this moment, all the ferrets wished that they were born ugly. At least, that way, humans would not be interested in them. However, it seemed like it was too late to think about that now. Len Ruoxue, who was under Tsang's guidance, had already taken out a small shovel and started to dig into a small snow pile. There was a family of 3 living in the pile of snow. At that moment, they could hear the creaking sounds coming from above their house. They were so frightened that their small, snow-white bodies began to tremble. My dear, take the child and hide. Let me handle this human. The trembling male ferret said to his beloved wife with an affectionate look. No. My dear, if we're going to die, well, die together. The female ferret firmly opposed. How could she let her husband face the hateful human alone? Thanks, our child is still young. Don't be so stubborn. The male ferret advised. My dear, if you want to run, let's run together. The female ferret said with a determined look. AI. All right then. If we can escape this. Before the male ferret could finish his sentence, he suddenly felt the ice above his head collapse. His expression changed and he shouted, My dear, run. This human was so fast at digging. In just a short while, they had already dug their way to their home. This made the male ferret extremely frightened. Without even thinking, he immediately urged his wife to leave with their child. He ran at the back to protect them. The male ferret knew that the situation was urgent, so it was anxious. After urging his beloved wife, it also ran away. Unfortunately, it only ran 2 steps before it realized that it was hanging in the air. Then, it clearly felt that its tail was grabbed by someone, and soon, it was hanging upside down. I caught one as expected. Len Ruoxue looked at the struggling ferret and smiled. Human. Quickly let me go, or else. The male ferret was scared witless, but it still gathered its courage and tried to threaten Leng Ruoxue. However, it could not finish its sentence. Woo-woo. These humans were really bullying the ferret. Any one of them gave it a lot of pressure. The male ferret was so sad and angry that he couldn't say anything. However, knowing that his beloved wife and son had run away, he was still quite relieved. It was just that it had just been married not long ago and was a father for the first time, so it was very reluctant to part with its wife and children. But as long as his wife and children were safe, it felt that even if it was caught, it was nothing. And now, its only hope was that its wife and child could escape this calamity. As she looked at the fearsome ferret, who was suddenly choked with sobs and could not speak, with tears in its blue eyes, Leng Ruoxue suddenly felt that she had gone a little too far. In fact, she just wanted to scare these ferrets. Unfortunately, these ferrets didn't know. Leng Ruoxue couldn't help but sigh as she looked at the beautiful and cute ferret with tears in its eyes. She had always been at her wits' end when it came to cute little beasts. However, now was obviously not the time for her to be sympathetic. Hence, Leng Ruoxue's words were still as evil as ever. This fur is not bad. If I catch a few more ferrets, it will be enough to make a coat for me. Leng Ruoxue's jade-white hand caressed the furious ferret as she praised it. The little ferret in her hand was only slightly bigger than an adult's palm, but its tail was twice the size of its body. Furthermore, its fur was snow-white and soft to the touch. Leng Ruoxue couldn't bear to let go of it. However, her words made the male ferret want to kill itself and destroy its fur so that the human woman could not get it. However, it could only think about it as it could not move at all. Even if it wanted to commit suicide, it did not have the ability. Niu wants to make a coat, so we'll catch all of these ferrets in one fell swoop. Hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, Sung chimed in with a smile. Don't. Just kill me. Don't harm my clansmen. The male ferret roared in response. You're really willing to sacrifice yourself for others. When she heard this, Leng Ruoxue was rather surprised. She really couldn't tell. The little ferret actually had such courage. When the male ferret heard Leng Ruoxue's words, it felt aggrieved and its tears began to flow. It was not that noble and it did not want to sacrifice itself for others. It was all for its wife and children. Kill us too. Suddenly, a gentle voice interrupted. Leng Ruoxue looked in the direction of the voice and saw a ferret that was slightly smaller than the one in her hand. It was standing not too far away with tears in its eyes, looking at the ferret in her hand with deep affection. On the ferret's back, there was an even smaller ferret. Chapter 23:36, The Ferret Tribe was wiped out. 3. Ugh. Could this be a family? Just as Leng Ruoxue was thinking of this, she felt the ferret in her hand struggling with an agitated expression. It was even shouting, "My dear, what are you doing back here? These humans are all demons. They won't let us go. Run." These words made Leng Ruoxue's forehead fill with black lines. Did she overdo it? She seemed to have only scared the ferret a little, but it actually thought she was a demon. However, so be it if he was a demon. She wanted to see how the other ferret would react. "My dear, I'm not leaving. If we're going to die, we'll die together. Woo, without you, how are we going to live?" The female ferret seemed to have made a huge decision, as if she was ready to die. The male ferret, on the other hand, was extremely anxious after hearing his wife's words. You fool! You fool! Our child was just born not long ago. Can you bear to see it die with us at such a young age?" The male ferret roared angrily. I don't care. I don't care. In my heart, you are the most important." The female ferret was obviously a beastie who would forget her child when she saw a woman. Therefore, she made a clear choice. When the male ferret heard this, he was extremely touched. However, before he could continue to persuade her, the crying female ferret threw herself into his arms and wailed, "Woo! My dear, how can I live without you? Hearing such affectionate words, the male ferret hugged his wife tightly, and the two ferrets cried bitterly. At this moment, the two ferrets that were hugging each other and crying had not realized that Len Ruoshua had already let go of the male ferret. The two of them were immersed in their own sorrow, and the ferret cub on the female ferret's back had been completely ignored by the couple. The little ferret was staring at its parents, Len Ruoshua, and the rest with its big blue eyes that were filled with confusion and helplessness. Seeing how adorable the ferret cub was, Len Ruoshua could not help but hug it in her arms. She said lovingly, "Poor little guy, it seems like your parents only want love and don't want you anymore." Even though the little ferret cub didn't quite understand Len Ruoksha's words, it could feel Len Ruoksha's kindness. Hence, it wasn't as repulsed and afraid of Len Ruoshua as its parents. On the contrary, it was very close to Len Ruoshua. After the initial fear, the little fellow happily started playing with Len Ruoshua. The ferret couple, who had just realized what was going on, also felt that something was amiss after crying. It was only then that they realized that their child had fallen into Len Ruoksha's hands. "Please return the child to me," the female ferret pleaded with tears in her eyes. "Return it to you? Do you want a husband or a child?" Len Ruoshua asked with a smile. I, the female ferret was anxious, but she stammered and could not say a complete sentence. In fact, if she wanted to say it, she would. However, it was afraid that its greed would anger these humans, so it didn't dare to voice its thoughts. "I want children. I'll trade for my child's safety." The male ferret saw his wife hesitating and immediately said, "But I like this little guy more. What should I do?" Len Ruoshua pretended to be in a difficult position. When the ferret couple heard Len Ruoksha's words, they looked at each other and felt the determination in their beloved wife's eyes. Then, the male ferret said, "Then, please arrest all three of us. Please don't separate us. Even if we die, we will die together. If you want to sell us, please sell us to the same person." This was the only request of the male ferret. It knew that if it didn't leave, his beloved wife would never leave. Since that was the case, then let the three of them be together forever. "That's a good idea." Len Ruoshua nodded her head in agreement to the male ferret's request. When the male ferret saw this, he immediately pulled his wife and obediently stayed by Len Ruoksha's feet. At this moment, he had no intention of running away. After all, his child was in the hands of the other party. However, how could that heartless child have such a good time playing with Len Ruoshua? The male ferret muttered to himself. After playing with the young ferret for a while, Len Ruoshua smiled at the male ferret and said, "Your child is much cuter than you and your wife." At least he wasn't afraid of her. These words caused the male ferret to close its eyes slightly. It did not give much of a reaction to Len Ruoshua, but it was quite proud of its own child. Len Ruoshua could see the smugness in the male ferret's heart. She raised her eyebrows and ordered, "Go and call out all of your ferret tribesmen." "What do you want to do?" Hearing this, the male ferret immediately became alert again, and the anger in its heart grew. Damn humans, wasn't capturing their family of three enough? He actually wanted to target the other members of their ferret clan. He had really gone too far. "Thanks, what do you think?" Len Ruoshua laughed as she retorted. She suddenly realized that it was rather interesting to see this ferret's fur standing on end. "Human. Please show mercy and let my people go." The furious ferret suddenly retracted its sharp claws and changed to a sorrowful tactic. "What if I refuse?" "Little ferret, do you want me to do it myself?" Len Ruoshua said with a straight face on purpose. "You'll do it yourself? Then wouldn't our ferret clan suffer heavy losses?" The male ferret thought to himself angrily, then finally compromised, "I can let my tribesmen come out to see you, but can you promise not to hurt them?" The male ferret started to talk about the conditions. After a brief interaction with Len Ruoshua, it realized that it was reasonable to talk to this human. Hence, it wanted to fight for the benefits of its own tribe. After all, it felt that it was the one who had harmed them. "If they're tactful and willing to take the initiative to leave with me, of course I won't hurt them." Len Ruoxue said honestly. The male ferret wanted to cry but no tears came out. It knew that this human had ill intentions towards them and wanted to sell them off. Of course, selling them off was still a good thing, but they were afraid that this human would still have ideas about their fur. At that time, they might even lose their lives. In its heart, Len Ruoxue's promise that she wouldn't harm her own clansmen had been treated as a promise that she wouldn't harm her own clansmen for now. But it was hard to say what would happen in the future. The male ferret was in a dilemma. Was he going to become a sinner of the ferret clan? If they followed this human, it wouldn't be long before the ferret clan was completely wiped out in the divine realm. The male ferret's mind was filled with pain. The more it thought about it, the sadder it became. The expression on its face was almost impossible to hide, and Len Ruoxue was baffled. In the end, it was Tsang who was kind enough to tell Len Ruoxue what the ferret was thinking. When Len Ruoxue heard it, she was a little confused. How did she not know that Beastie's imagination was so rich? However, now wasn't the time for this ferret to let its thoughts run wild. At this thought, Len Ruoxue said coldly, "Are you going or not? If you don't want to go, I'll do it myself." "I'll go." The male ferret's face was filled with grief and indignation, then, it went back into its snow cave. The ferret's cave was like a tunnel, it was basically connected. Therefore, the male ferret could find all of its tribesmen as long as he went down from his home. An hour later, Len Ruoxue saw the snow pile in front of her being split open one by one. From within, snow-white ferrets crawled out. When all the ferrets had arrived, Len Ruoxue did a rough count and realized that there were very few of them. There were only about 100 of them. At this moment, the ferrets' faces were filled with fear. Looking at their pitiful little appearances, Len Ruoxue deeply felt that she was too evil. How could she scare these cute little beasts like this? However, she was also doing this for the good of these little guys. If he followed the white tiger race, he would definitely have no future. He might as well follow her. With this thought, Len Ruoxue immediately threw the little guilt in her heart out of the window. Then, like a wolf grandmother, she smiled at the ferrets and said, "Are the ferrets all here?" "Everyone's here." The leader of the Snow Ferret clan said with a long face after hearing Len Ruoxue's words. "Very good, from now on, you will be my beasts." Len Ruoxue was straightforward. However, her words had misled the ferrets, causing them to think that they were going to become the humans' captives. So, the moment Len Ruoxue finished speaking, the ferrets burst into tears. The outcome of being weak. They could only be bullied by humans. This was the only thought in the ferret's mind at this moment. However, what made them even more indignant was that their backer did not dare to stand up for their tribe. This fact made them extremely disappointed, and their cries naturally became louder. This scene made Len Ruoxue dumbfounded for a moment. Did she say anything? Why are these little guys crying so sadly? Could it be that it was difficult to leave one's homeland? Len Ruoxue speculated. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that this was possible. However, the place she could provide for these little fellows was definitely several times better and safer than the place they were currently living in. With this thought in mind, Len Ruoxue shifted all the ferrets in front of her into her bracelet. What about the ferrets? Looking at the ferret that had suddenly disappeared, Jiang Ning asked with a puzzled expression. "I've kept it," Len Ruoxue said with a smile. Ah! Jiang Ning was speechless. This little girl was truly ruthless. She had actually wiped out the entire ferret tribe. He wondered how the white tiger tribe would react when they found out about this. He was really looking forward to it. Chapter 2337, New Idea, 1. Looking at Jiang Ning's reaction, Len Ruoxue suddenly had a new idea. She felt that she could capture all the beasts on the Longevity Mountain, except for the white tiger race. This way, she could also remove some of the white tiger race's wings. She just didn't know how the white tiger race would react if they knew her thoughts. However, the more Len Ruoxue thought about it, the more she felt that her idea was good. Following that, Leng Ruoxue let out a faint smile and whispered to the other 3 humans and 1 beast, "I've decided." "What?" When Jiang Ning heard these words, he waited for Leng Ruoxue to continue with a face full of questions. However, Leng Ruoxue deliberately kept him in suspense, causing Jiang Ning to be anxious. It was as if a cat had grown claws in his heart and was scratching at it non-stop. However, the detestable Leng Ruoxue refused to say anything. "Shuer, can you not keep us in suspense? How can you only say half of your words? Are you trying to make me anxious?" Jiang Ning said, a little upset. "Ha ha ha. What I want to say is that I've decided to capture all the beasts here in one fell swoop. Of course, that's with the exception of the white tiger race." Leng Ruoxue finally revealed her plan when she saw how anxious Jiang Ning was. Oh. Why did she like to tease people more and more? However, Jiang Ning was still not calm enough. The demon and Uncle Long didn't even ask much. However, it was a good thing that Jiang Ning did not know what Leng Ruoxue was thinking. If he knew that Leng Ruoxue was comparing him to the evildoer and Uncle Long, he would definitely be depressed. Who asked him to know Shuer without any parents? That's a good idea. The demon agreed. Uncle Long also nodded. However, after hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, Jiang Ning couldn't help but ask, "This idea is too crazy. Are you trying to drive the white tiger race mad?" "Why would I? I'm helping the white tiger race clear the obstacles. Without the other beast races, the white tiger race can monopolize the longevity mountain. Therefore, they have to be grateful to me. Otherwise, they'll be considered as ungrateful," Leng Ruoxue said matter-of-factly. The demon and Uncle Long didn't have any reaction to his words, but cold sweat was dripping down Jiang Ning's back. Oh my god. He didn't hear wrong, did he? By doing this, Shuer could also be considered to have done a favor for the white tiger race. And she wanted him to be grateful to her. Was that even possible? The white tiger race was one of the 4 great king divine beast races. They had always been proud and had a high status. You've raided their subordinate beast race, and you still want them to thank you. If the white tiger race was really grateful to Leng Ruoxue because of this, Jiang Ning felt that he would look down on them. They were too cowardly, weren't they? Even though Jiang Ning's heart was already in turmoil, Leng Ruoxue did not give him the chance to let his thoughts run wild. She waved her hand and said, "Let's continue." The next Snow Rat clan. The little silver rats by her side were very good at gathering information, so Leng Ruoxue reckoned that the snow rats wouldn't be any worse off. Thus, Leng Ruoxue was rather looking forward to seeing those little fellows. Just like that, Leng Ruoxue and the rest took a long detour and went to the Snow Rat clan first. Thanks at the same time, the Ferret clan that had been moved into Leng Ruoxue's bracelet were initially alarmed when they saw that they had been moved to a new place. However, they soon realized that their new home was many times better than their original home. Furthermore, the temperature here was more suitable for the Ferret clan to live in. They just did not know where they were. All the ferrets racked their brains, but they still could not figure out where they were. Suddenly, a chubby baby appeared in front of them, and the ferret's eyes widened. "Welcome to your new home." The chubby child, Qing Ju, said with a smile. "Our new home. This place?" When the Snow Ferret tribe leader heard this, he asked in disbelief. "Of course. You guys have already been absorbed by my sister. From now on, the white tiger race has nothing to do with you guys anymore. So, you guys just have to listen to my sister, do you understand?" Qing Ju reminded. However, when the ferrets heard what he said, they were even more confused. "Who's your sister?" The chief of the Snow Ferret tribe asked carefully. He could already tell that this little kid was not to be trifled with. "It's Leng Ruoxue, the one who sent you all here," Qing Ju explained. "Arg! Isn't it going to sell us?" The Snow Ferret tribe leader said in shock. "Sell you? How much can you sell your meatless little beasts for? Big sister has brought you guys in here for your own good." Otherwise, when Big Sister deals with the white tiger race in the future, you guys will definitely become cannon fodder. Big Sister has always had a kind heart towards the beasts, so naturally, I can't bear to see you guys being used by the white tiger race. That's why I'm thinking of helping you guys. Qing Ju told the truth, but he could not guarantee that the ferrets would not believe him. Green Vessel's words caused the ferrets to turn pale with fright. Although they already knew that they wouldn't be sold from the mouth of this little doll in front of them, what caused them to be terrified was that this human woman actually wanted to go against the white tiger race. Wasn't this the rhythm of seeking death? Even though the ferrets were afraid of Len Ruoxue, they didn't believe that she would dare to cause trouble for the white tiger race. After all, in their hearts, the white tiger race was extremely powerful. Otherwise, the white tiger race wouldn't be known as one of the 4 great king divine beasts of the firmament. At this moment, they had long forgotten that the white tiger race didn't care about the life and death of their own race. They were completely shocked by Qing Ju's words. Furthermore, they were naive and would never have thought that the white tiger race didn't care about them and didn't want to provoke Len Ruoxue because they were worried about her. Looking at the group of dumbfounded ferrets, Qing Ju patted the ferret tribe leader's shoulder and said, "You will live here from now on. When Big Sister's matters are settled, he'll let you all return to the Longevity Mountain. At that time, I'm afraid you won't be willing to leave." Qing Ju laughed to himself. After he finished speaking, he strode away with his chubby legs. After Green Vessel left, the ferrets were still a little dazed. It took them a while to get used to their new home before they got used to it and settled down here with no qualms. At this moment, Len Ruoxue had also received Qing Ju's report. She knew that the little ferrets had settled down. Then, they quickened their pace and walked towards the Snow Rat clan. The Snow Rat clan had always been responsible for the intelligence work of the Longevity Mountain. They were also the first to inform the White Tiger clan of the arrival of Len Ruoxue and the others. It was only after that the White Tiger clan spies took over their work and continued to monitor Len Ruoxue and the others' every move. As for the Snow Rats, they hid in their own caves. However, compared to the ferret's cave, the Snow Rat's cave was more accessible. Hence, Len Ruoxue's thoughts could not be hidden from them. However, it was also because of Len Ruoxue's thoughts and the fact that the ferret clan had been wiped out that they were even more anxious. The Snow Rat King had already reported to the White Tiger race about Len Ruoxue's plan to wipe out the entire Snow Rat race. However, they had yet to receive any response from the White Tiger race. As Len Ruoxue and the rest got closer and closer, the Snow Rats were in a complete mess. Chapter 2338, A New Idea. 2. King, what should we do? Quickly think of a way. That human is about to arrive. The Snow Rats hiding in the cave wailed, and the Snow Rat King was having a headache. Calm down. All of you calm down. Aren't they just a few humans? What was there to be afraid of? We have the White Tiger race's support, those humans won't dare to do anything to us. The Snow Rat King tried to comfort them, but the other Snow Rats did not agree or disagree with what the king said. King, don't lie to us. The White Tiger race didn't react at all to the arrival of these humans. Don't forget what happened to the ferret race. If the White Tiger race wanted to stand up for the ferret race, they would have done so long ago. There wouldn't be no movement now. An old snow rat didn't want to see its king lie to its clansmen like this, so it exposed its king's words without giving it any face. That's right. The White Tiger race wouldn't care about our lives. They will never fight against the humans outside for us. Some of the snow rats supported the elder snow rat's words. Furthermore, as the Snow Rat clan that was responsible for the intelligence work of the Longevity Mountain, they naturally knew Len Ruoxue better than the other magical beasts. Therefore, they were very clear about the strength of Len Ruoxue and the others. They also understood the White Tiger King's concerns about not being willing to make an enemy out of them. Of course, those snow rats who had such thoughts would naturally have a high status in the Snow Rat clan. Thus, they would not be deceived by the lies of their king. When the Snow Rat King heard such opposition, it was so angry that it trembled. After a long time, the Snow Rat King roared, "Then what do you guys think we should do?" "King, let's run," a little snow mouse said timidly. "Can you run?" "Where could he have run to?" the old snow rat said with a disapproving look. "As many of our clansmen as we can run. It's better than all of us becoming that human's prisoners." The more the little snow mouse spoke, the softer its voice became. In the end, it even lowered its head, not daring to look at its clansmen. "Our Snow Rat clan has always relied on the strength of a team to occupy a place in the Longevity Mountain, and even to be valued by the White Tiger race. If only a few of us managed to escape, it would seem that we have preserved the bloodline of the Snow Rat clan, but we would also lose our value to the White Tiger race. Therefore, it doesn't matter to us whether we run or not, unless the White Tiger race reaches out a helping hand to us. Otherwise, we might as well surrender. At least, if our clan is together, it would still be of great use. I'm sure that human can't bear to kill us," the old snow rat said with a shrewd expression. In this regard, it was more farsighted than the other snow rats. It also knew the advantages of the Snow Rat clan. Therefore, in the situation where the White Tiger clan did not come to rescue them, the only thing they could rely on was their own advantages. This way, they could give the Snow Rat clan a chance to survive. As for the White Tiger race's reinforcements, the old snow rat was well aware that they would not come. Otherwise, the White Tiger race wouldn't have remained silent for such a long time. Although the old snow rat was extremely disappointed by this result, he had already accepted the fact that things had come to this. Staying alive was the most important thing. It didn't matter who they relied on or who their master was. The old snow rat's words made all the snow rats, including the Snow Rat King, lower their heads in deep thought. Finally, after thinking for a long time, the Snow Rat King raised its head with a determined look and said, "Let's surrender." After saying that, the Snow Rat King lowered its head dejectedly. It had let down the Snow Rat clan. Although the Snow Rat clan was not very powerful among the Divine Realm's magical beasts, they had never had a human master. Now, this glorious tradition was going to be destroyed in its hands. Therefore, it was quite depressed and sad. The old snow rat could tell that the Snow Rat King was in a bad mood. He didn't know what to say except to pat its shoulder to comfort it. When Len Ruoxue and the others arrived at the territory of the Snow Rat clan, they saw the entire clan moving out, as if they were welcoming them. Thanks Jiang Ning was extremely surprised by this scene. What was going on? Jiang Ning's face was filled with question marks. The frowning snow rats didn't look like they were going to fight them. However, what the Snow Rat King said next made Jiang Ning's jaw drop. "Human, we snow rats surrender." The Snow Rat King took a deep breath and then said on behalf of the other snow rats, "Fuck." When Jiang Ning heard this, he wanted to curse. What kind of character did that girl have? How could such a thing happen? Although the Snow Rat clan was not very powerful, they were very good at gathering information. Therefore, at this moment, Jiang Ning was really envious of Len Ruoxu's luck. Of course, this was under the condition that he had never seen Len Ruoxu's silver rats. Otherwise, he would be so depressed that he would bang his head against a wall. When Len Ruoxue heard this, she wasn't too surprised. It was as if she had already expected this. Following that, she nodded and said, "This is a wise choice." Hearing Len Ruoxu's words, Jiang Ning had the urge to vomit blood. You bastard! What did he mean by acting innocent after getting benefits? This was it. Looking at the faint smile on Len Ruoxu's face, Jiang Ning truly felt that she was an eyesore. This was clearly a provocation. However, even though he was a little upset, he also knew that he couldn't be envious of someone's character. This was all a matter of personal luck, it was inborn. With a tinge of envy, jealousy, and hatred, Jiang Ning looked at Len Ruoxue with a face full of admiration. In the end, Len Ruoxue felt a little creeped out. She rolled her eyes at him and ordered the Snow Rat King to recognize its master. After that, Len Ruoxue and the rest quickly left the territory of the Snow Rat clan. The other snow rats were placed into the Bengal by Leng Ruoxue and handed over to Green Vessel to settle down. The Snow Rat King was left outside to lead the way. It was only now that Leng Ruoxue began to carefully observe the Snow Rat King's appearance. The Snow Rat King before her was only half the size of her palm. It was chubby and had a snow-white body. It looked like a small snowball and was rather adorable. With its big, black, watery eyes, it looked at her pitifully. Leng Ruoxue was immediately overwhelmed by its cuteness. Leng Ruoxue poked the Snow Rat King's chubby little body and placed it on her shoulder. She then instructed, "Snow Rat King, take us to the Snow Wolf clan." Leng Ruoxue persevered in carrying out her goal and annihilated all the beasts under the White Tiger race. When the Snow Rat King heard Leng Ruoxue's words, it nodded its head vigorously. In its heart, it was gloating over Leng Ruoxue's misfortune. It seemed like another beast race would be wiped out in one fell swoop on the Longevity Mountain. In an instant, the Snow Rat King's heart was balanced. It felt that having a human master was actually quite good. Moreover, after recognizing a master, it realized that its master had many beasts. As such, the Snow Rat clan that had been forced to surrender did not feel as unwilling anymore. Instead, they accepted Leng Ruoxue as their master with ease. With the Snow Rat King leading the way, Leng Ruoxue and her group soon arrived at the Snow Wolf clan. When they arrived at the Snow Wolf clan, Leng Ruoxue did not waste any time and immediately released the Silver Wolf King to deal with the king of the Snow Wolf clan. Chapter 2339, New Idea, 3. The Silver Wolf King stepped out and slapped the Snow Wolf King with its paw. The Snow Wolf King was beaten until it was dizzy. In the end, under the violent abuse of the Silver Wolf King, the Snow Wolf King recognized its master. The Snow Wolf King was not only aggrieved, but he felt even more aggrieved. When he was being beaten up, he had said that he would surrender. However, that detestable Silver Wolf King seemed to have not heard anything and continued to beat him up. In the end, the Silver Wolf King only let it go when it was tired from the beating. Its beautiful white fur was also stained with blood and it was covered in wounds. However, it could not defeat the Silver Wolf King. Therefore, it could only swallow its anger in silence. When the other snow wolves saw this, they were so scared that they hid away. When the Snow Wolf tribe recognized their master, the snow wolves looked at the Silver Wolf King with fear in their eyes. "Master, they're too weak. Leave them to me. I'll teach them a good lesson." The Silver Wolf King's large eyes swept across the snow wolves, and the snow wolves began to shiver pitifully again. The Silver Wolf King's words made the snow wolves' hearts tremble even more. They sincerely prayed for their master. "Don't hand us over to it." However, Leng Ruoxue turned a deaf ear to the pleading looks of the snow wolves. Instead, she agreed with the Silver Wolf King's opinion and nodded. "Well, do as you say." The snow wolves were not strong enough to fight, and they needed to be trained. Following that, Leng Ruoxue moved the Silver Wolf King and the snow wolves into the Bengal. The snow wolves then began their painful and devilish training. After taking in the snow wolves, the Snow Rat King was satisfied. Then, it asked, "Master, which beast clan should we go next?" Hearing this, Leng Ruoxue's forehead was filled with black lines. She thought to herself, did I lead the Snow Rat King astray, or does the Snow Rat King have a tendency to take pleasure in others' misfortune? This little fellow was much more lively than when it had just recognized him as its master. "Which other beast clans are there?" Leng Ruoxue asked after some thought. "Snow Snake Tribe, Snow Rabbit Tribe, Snow Fox Tribe, Snow Leopard Tribe, only these few," the Snow Rat King reported while counting his fingers. "Let's go to the Snow Leopard Tribe. After subduing the Snow Leopard Tribe, go to the Snow Fox Tribe. As for the Snow Snake Tribe and the Snow Rabbit Tribe, we won't be subduing them. We have to leave a few for the White Tiger Tribe," Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. However, her words were met with the contempt of both humans and beasts. They did not believe that Leng Ruoxue would have such good intentions. She probably didn't like the Snow Snake and Snow Rabbit clans. Otherwise, she wouldn't let them go. They had to admit that they knew the truth. It was true that Leng Ruoxue didn't like snakes and rabbits, so she let them off. She didn't really like snakes. As for those snow rabbits, they were also food in her eyes. If she took in the snow rabbits, what would they eat in the future? Therefore, not all beasts could be accepted. Of course, if she didn't accept the snow snake and snow rabbit, it would go against her original intention. After all, her goal was to capture all the magical beasts other than the white tiger race in one fell swoop. However, thoughts were dead, but people were alive. So, she really didn't think it was a big deal. Naturally, he wouldn't mind too much. Then, everyone continued on their way. Their target this time was the snow leopard tribe. Longevity Mountain was the most suitable place for the beast clans who loved the cold. Hence, the beasts on Longevity Mountain were all the same color as snow. They looked rather beautiful and clean. Leng Ruoxue had always liked cute beasts. Hence, she was rather friendly towards these beasts. Of course, this was only if these beasts knew their own limitations. When they arrived at the territory of the Snow Leopard clan, the Snow Leopard King was also like a clan of snow rats, waiting for them in the territory. When the Snow Leopard King saw Leng Ruoxue and the rest, he did not waste any time and directly said, "Our Snow Leopard clan is willing to acknowledge you as our master. However, you have to treat us better." Hearing this, Leng Ruoxue couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. Why did these words sound so awkward? However, Leng Ruoxue could not help but ask, "You're really willing to take the initiative to recognize me as your master?" N. The Snow Leopard King nodded, his face filled with determination. At this moment, Old Leopard, who was in the house, sent a voice transmission to Leng Ruoxue and requested to come out. When Leng Ruoxue heard this, she had an idea and brought out Old Leopard. Thanks the moment the Old Leopard came out, Leng Ruoxue realized that this Snow Leopard King looked a little similar to the Old Leopard. No wonder when she first saw this Snow Leopard King, it gave her a sense of déjà vu. When the Old Leopard saw the Snow Leopard King, he immediately rushed forward. Just when everyone thought they were going to fight, the two leopards suddenly hugged each other tightly. Ugh! Was this considered the promiscuous love between the two leopards? Feeling everyone's surprised eyes, Old Leopard coughed awkwardly and then introduced with a blushing face, "He's my cousin." Younger cousin? Leng Ruoxue had not expected that the Old Leopard had relatives on Longevity Mountain. The Old Leopard had hidden himself well. No wonder he knew so much about Longevity Mountain. Hee hee. My cousin is very familiar with your name, little girl. The Old Leopard glanced at everyone's surprised expressions and continued to speak in embarrassment. Of course, he also often bragged about Leng Ruoxue to his cousin. Otherwise, this cousin of his would not have taken the initiative to surrender when Leng Ruoxue was taking in the Beast clan of the Longevity Mountain. One must know that the Snow Leopard clan was still very powerful in the Longevity Mountain. Hearing this, Leng Ruoxue knew that she did not need to ask why the Snow Leopard King had surrendered so easily. The Old Leopard's contribution could not be overlooked. After the Snow Leopard King acknowledged the Snow Leopard clan as its master, Leng Ruoxue and the rest headed to the Snow Fox clan without stopping. On the way, the Snow Rat King couldn't help but remind Leng Ruoxue, "Master, the Snow Fox tribe is very powerful and is the second most powerful force on our Longevity Mountain. Therefore, I'm afraid it won't be that easy to subdue them." It doesn't matter. If he couldn't subdue it, he would just kill it directly. Their fur can be made into coats. Leng Ruoxue's voice was bloodthirsty. When the Snow Rat King heard this, its little body could not help but tremble. It could not understand why its master, who had always been very kind, would suddenly become so fierce when facing the Snow Fox tribe. However, the Snow Rat King felt that it was better not to think about things that he could not understand for the time being. Otherwise, it would only tire himself out. With this thought in mind, the Snow Rat King didn't ask any more questions, but led the way honestly. Of course, the news of them heading towards the Snow Fox clan had also reached the White Tiger King's ears. Ever since the White Tiger King received the report from his spies that all the affiliated beast clans of the White Tiger race had been absorbed by Leng Ruoxue, he had been unable to suppress the anger in his heart. However, what was the use of being angry? Could it take the initiative to provoke Leng Ruoxue just because of a few weak beasts? Even though it wanted to maintain the dignity of its race, the thought of Tsang's existence made the White Tiger King immediately shrink back. He didn't dare to provoke the Totoro. Hence, as long as Leng Ruoxue didn't attack the White Tiger race, he could only squint like nothing had happened. He didn't want to take the initiative to send himself to her door and give Leng Ruoxue an excuse to deal with them. Although squinting would cause the prestige of the White Tiger race to be swept to the ground, other than this, he had no other choice. The White Tiger King was so infuriated that his liver was hurting. He had to watch helplessly as Leng Ruoxue brazenly plundered the beasts that belonged to him in the Longevity Mountain. The members of the White Tiger race were even more furious. However, the White Tiger race members who had been ordered by the king and the elders to not take any action did not dare to go against the wishes of their race. Hence, they could only sulk on their own. Of course, Leng Ruoxue didn't pay too much attention to the White Tiger race's thoughts. Hence, she had no idea that the White Tiger race at the peak of the Longevity Mountain was already so angry that they were about to vomit blood because of her actions. They were still on their way to the Snow Fox tribe in a good mood. The Snow Fox tribe's encampment was located halfway up the Longevity Mountain. The terrain was extremely steep. However, with the Snow Rat King leading the way, Leng Ruoxue and the others were extremely safe. They had also avoided all the dangerous areas. This reality made the Snow Fox tribe, who had originally planned to use the favorable conditions of time, location, and people to launch an unexpected attack on Leng Ruoxue and the others, greatly disappointed. Within the Snow Fox tribe's main hall. "Your Majesty, what do we do now? Those humans are coming up." An elder of the Snow Fox tribe, who had received the news long ago, looked at his king with a worried expression and asked uneasily. "Since those humans want to die, then let them come." The gigantic Snow Fox King, who was sitting at the head of the table, said calmly after hearing the words of an elder. However, even though it looked very calm on the surface, its heart was already in turmoil. Fuck. His own alliance, the White Tiger race, knew that Leng Ruoxue and the others had come to find trouble, but not only were they unwilling to provide help, they even asked them to think of a way on their own and even suggested for them to leave the Longevity Mountain to hide. You bastard! They were already blocked at the entrance of their house, could they avoid it? More importantly, with the damned Snow Rat's tip-off, it was impossible for the Snow Fox clan to avoid Leng Ruoxue and the others. If it had known that it would be betrayed by the Snow Rat clan today, it would have exterminated those damn rats earlier. If that had happened, there would not have been such a thing today. The Snow Fox King was so regretful that its intestines turned green. The hatred it felt towards Leng Ruoxue and the rest was directed towards the Snow Rats. At this moment, a Snow Fox tribe guard ran into the main hall in a panic and reported loudly, "Your Majesty, Leng Ruoxue and the rest have arrived at the entrance of our encampment." What? How did he do it so quickly? The Snow Fox King and the elders were shocked. The scout had reported that Leng Ruoxue was still quite a distance away from the encampment. He didn't expect them to arrive so quickly. Chapter 2340, Pretty Boy, do you dare to fight me one-on-one? 1. The Snow Fox King could not believe it and could not accept the speed of Leng Ruoxue and the others. It had already sent its clansmen to create obstacles for those people, so why did those damn humans still get to the gate of the encampment? The Snow Fox King was depressed and conflicted about this. The elders of the Snow Fox tribe were also not calm when they heard this. They had long heard of Leng Ruoxue and the others' fearsome reputation. Moreover, the Snow Fox tribe had a close relationship with the White Tiger tribe. Hence, they were naturally aware that two of the White Tiger's reverent god-level experts were injured. Hence, their fear of Leng Ruoxue increased. Now that the goddess of slaughter had brought people to their doorstep, it was easy to imagine how much pressure they were under. However, they were still part of the Snow Fox race. Whether it was the Snow Fox King or the elders of the Snow Fox race, they were not willing to show their fear, in case they were looked down upon by the other beast races. Therefore, all the elders of the Snow Fox tribe looked at the Snow Fox King, hoping that it would come up with a good idea. The Snow Fox King was getting more and more anxious as he looked at the expectant eyes of the elders. "You bastard! These useless old things always let it make the decision when something happened. Were they all dead?" The Snow Fox King was very angry. Sometimes, it really didn't know what was the use of raising these idiots. However, as a member of the Snow Fox tribe, it could not ignore the safety of its tribesmen. Therefore, sometimes, it was quite aggrieved as the Snow Fox King. After thinking for a while, the Snow Fox King regained its momentum and said, "Since Len Ruoxue and the rest have already arrived outside the encampment, let's go out and meet her. At the same time, let the other beast tribes know how powerful our Snow Fox tribe is." After the Snow Fox King finished speaking, he stood up and took the lead to walk out of the hall. The other elders saw this and quickly followed their king's footsteps. A few of them even followed the Snow Fox King and flattered him. The Snow Fox King was praised all the way. It brought its tribe army to the entrance of the Snow Fox tribe's base. Len Ruoxue, who had been waiting for a while, saw a group of huge snow foxes that were whiter than snow. There was not a single strand of stray fur on their bodies. Her beautiful eyes immediately released a different kind of spirit. Although these snow foxes were of a similar color to white foxes, they were more beautiful than white foxes. If one did not look carefully, one would not be able to tell the difference between the two. However, it was obvious that the fur of the Snow Fox tribe was more suitable to be made into coats. Moreover, the fur of a Snow Fox tribe was probably enough to make several pieces. Oh! It should be enough to kill the Snow Fox King alone. As for the other foxes, it would depend on whether they knew what was good for them. In an instant, Len Ruoxue made a decision in her heart. A mountain could not hold two tigers, and a tribe could not hold two Snow Fox Kings. Hence, for the May to successfully inherit the throne, she could only kill this Snow Fox King. This could be considered as a warning to the others. Otherwise, these old foxes would not be honest. Since she had chosen the Snow Fox King as her target, Len Ruoxue naturally did not need to be too polite to it. Hence, when the snow foxes arrived in front of her, Len Ruoxue deliberately put on an arrogant attitude and said with a displeased expression, "Which one is the Snow Fox King?" "This king is." When the Snow Fox King heard Len Ruoxue's words, it snorted coldly. It had thought that Len Ruoxue was very powerful. They actually dared to come to the Snow Fox tribe to cause trouble with just these few people. They really did not know their own strength. As the Snow Fox tribe was not as well informed as the White Tiger tribe, and they had always been arrogant, the Snow Fox King was not aware that Len Ruoxue had many people by her side. When it saw 4 people, it truly thought that Len Ruoxue had only brought a few people with her. As for Tsang, when he came to the Snow Fox tribe, he had changed his appearance slightly. Now, he looked like a snow-white cat. The Snow Fox King naturally did not recognize him. Hearing the Snow Fox King's response, Len Ruoxue looked up and down as if she was looking at her prey. She carefully sized up the Snow Fox King. Just as the Snow Fox King was about to fly into a rage, Len Ruoxue retracted her beautiful eyes and revealed a faint smile. "Not bad. Not bad. It's big enough to make a fur coat for each of us." Thanks, these words caused the blood pressure of the Snow Fox King to rise instantly, and his anger rose to the top of his head. However, before the Snow Fox King could speak, Tsang closed his eyes and said with a wronged face, "Am I not getting a share?" "There are. I'll also make one with you." Len Ruoxue gently stroked Tsang's soft fur as she smiled. Hearing this, Tsang laughed heartlessly. When Jiang Ning heard this, black lines appeared on his forehead. He couldn't help but secretly sigh. This was clearly to anger the Snow Fox King to death. The Snow Fox King, who had also heard this, was indeed angry. It was not just an ordinary anger. It was so angry that it was about to explode. Fuck! He had never heard of a cat wearing a fur coat. Don't you have fur on you? Why did he have to target the other beasts? The Snow Fox King was furious and sorrowful. Suddenly, it felt a gush of blood rushing up from its throat. The Snow Fox King suppressed its anger and swallowed the blood, but the fire in its heart could not be suppressed. Despicable humans! How dare he humiliate the great Snow Fox King? I think you're really tired of living. The furious Snow Fox King roared. As they were close, Len Ruoxue and the rest could clearly see the Snow Fox King's trembling body. Seeing this, Len Ruoxue smiled and said, "Which part of you is great? I only see that you're about to have epilepsy." Hee hee. Hearing this, Uncle Long and the others couldn't help but laugh. Jiang Ning laughed so hard that his body swayed back and forth. He couldn't help but think that Shui was really too evil. She actually said that the Snow Fox King was sick in such a serious manner. This time, the Snow Fox King was probably going to go crazy from anger. As expected by Jiangning, when the Snow Fox King heard Len Ruoxue's words, it was so angry that its heart, liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys were all tangled together. Although it did not know what epilepsy was, anything that came out of the mouth of that detestable human woman could not be good. The Snow Fox King had absolute confidence in this. Damn it! Humans! You can die now. The Snow Fox King gritted its teeth in anger and charged towards Len Ruoxue's direction without hesitation. However, the poor Snow Fox King had just gotten into position and was about to speed up when Len Ruoxue stopped it. Wait! You old fox, how can you fight just like that? I'm not done yet. Len Ruoxue shouted. The Snow Fox King, who was in its most handsome pose, almost fell to the ground when it heard her. Fuck! Do I have to wait for you to finish speaking? Who do you think you are? The Snow Fox King was very angry, and the consequences would be very serious. However, it was startled by Len Ruoxue's sudden loud voice and it really did stop on reflex. Seeing the Snow Fox King's reaction, Len Ruoxue nodded in satisfaction and said in an infuriating manner, "Good girl. I'll leave your corpse intact later." This time, the Snow Fox King was so angry that it could not even form a complete sentence. Its heaving chest strongly expressed its anger and dissatisfaction, but Len Ruoxue did not care. Her beautiful eyes swept across the furry foxes in front of her and she continued, "I'll give you a chance to choose. Do you want to surrender or do you want me to use force?" Chapter 2341, Pretty Boy, do you dare to fight me one-on-one? 2. Even Uncle Long couldn't hold it in anymore. Cold sweat dripped down from his forehead, and he couldn't help but wail in his heart. Girl, do you have to say this so ambiguously? Aren't you afraid of the jealous lover beside you? The jealous jar, in his heart was naturally referring to the evildoer. However, to Uncle Long's surprise, he didn't see a trace of anger on the evildoer's handsome face. This was too abnormal. Could it be that the jealous jar of wine had changed? Uncle Long was full of doubts. At this moment, he heard the evildoer smile faintly and speak in a light tone, "Just kill him directly, no need for the trouble." Ugh! He was wrong. Uncle Long sighed to himself. Not only did this vinegar jar, not change, but it instead became even more serious. He actually wanted them to be killed directly. Wouldn't it be the most convenient to kill him directly? When the snow foxes at the entrance of the encampment heard the demon's words, their expressions changed again and again. Their snow-white and furry faces were like a palette. In the end, every snow fox's old face turned red. However, the invisible pressure that the demon gave them was too great, so no one dared to talk back for a while. However, they were afraid of the pressure brought by the demon, but it did not mean that the Snow Fox King would be afraid. Furthermore, the Snow Fox King was already blinded by anger. Hence, after the demon finished his sentence, the Snow Fox King immediately roared in anger, "You detestable pretty boy, who do you want to kill?" "Humph. If you want to kill us, why don't you first see if you have the ability?" The words pretty boy made the demon's face darken instantly. Therefore, the demon did not care about what the Snow Fox King said after that. This was because these 3 words could determine the death of the Snow Fox King. Feeling the terrifying cold chi coming from the demon, Uncle Long and Jiang Ning couldn't help but stay away from the danger zone. However, the 2 of them were quite impressed by the Snow Fox King's courage, but they couldn't help but sigh. This old fox's death was coming. Hee. He's just a pretty boy. At this time, Azure interjected. Upon hearing this, Uncle Long and Jiang Ning moved further away to avoid unnecessary trouble. They knew very well that the jealous man would blame the Snow Fox King for what he said. Therefore, the Snow Fox King was a sad character. It was destined. Even if the White Tiger King came personally, it would not be able to help it. However, the Snow Fox King did not sense any danger. After saying those words, it saw that the pretty boy did not have much reaction, and it was even more certain of the identity of the demon pretty boy. It looked at the demon with a faint disdain. Upon seeing this, the demon squinted his obsidian-like bright eyes and sized up the Snow Fox King. Then, he said to Len Ruoxue, "Shuer, leave this old fox to me." "Good. However, I'm very interested in its fur, so be careful when you attack and don't hurt its fur." Len Ruoxue reminded him worriedly. "Don't worry. I guarantee they're all internal injuries." The demon nodded. The 2 of them conversed as if there was no one else present. Uncle Long, Jiang Ning, and the Snow Foxes broke out in cold sweat as they listened. Internal injuries? Wouldn't that be more serious than an external injury? Thanks. Uncle Long and Jiang Ning suddenly felt sorry for the Snow Fox King. However, as the main character, the Snow Fox King didn't feel that it was in any danger. It glanced at the demon's strength and said with a look of disdain, "Humph. A puny little emperor dared to speak such arrogant words. Has this king not walked in the divine world for too long? How come this king never knew that even the divine realm's divine emperors dared to provoke a godly venerable rank expert?" Yes. It was a reverent god. Although its strength was not the strongest in the Snow Fox clan, it was still ranked in the top 3. Of course, it just happened to be in the 3rd place. The 2 Snow Foxes ranked in front of it were both old and experienced figures in the Snow Fox clan. Those 2 old foxes had been in seclusion all this time. Therefore, it was the most powerful in the Snow Fox clan now. This had naturally cultivated its arrogant and condescending character. Except for the hierarch of the human race and the beast race who were ranked higher than it, it basically didn't care about anyone else. And now, a person like the evildoer who only had the strength of a divine emperor, naturally, he would not enter its eyes. It would never have dreamed that some people's strength could not be measured just by level. It had lived for so long, but it had never met such a person. Therefore, with its limited vision, it naturally did not take the demon's words to heart. However, as a reverent god-level beast, it would not allow itself to be provoked by a divine emperor. In its eyes, the mysterious Uncle Dragon was the most powerful. He was also a reverent god like it. However, it was impossible to tell who was stronger without a battle. As for the other 3 people, including Len Ruoxue and the rest, they were only at the divine emperor realm. Hence, the Snow Fox King suspected that the news in the divine world had spread Len Ruoxue's name too quickly. Could a puny divine emperor defeat a reverent god? That's right. That Totoro must have helped her. The Snow Fox King had heard of the legend of the mysterious Totoro, but he did not know Tsang's identity. The Rime Ice would naturally not be stupid enough to reveal Tsang's identity to the outside world. Therefore, other than the 4 divine beast kings, in the eyes of the other beast clans, Tsang was at most a powerful beast. Now, the Snow Fox King had not found any trace of the Totoro. And among the 4 people in front of him, there was only one reverent god level. Suddenly, the Snow Fox King was even more confident. It truly felt that its greatest opponent was Uncle Long and not Len Ruoxue and the other 2. Therefore, it did not feel any pressure at all when it thought of taking care of the pretty boy in its eyes. At the thought of this, the Snow Fox King roared and asked, "Pretty boy, do you dare to fight me one-on-one?" The demon squinted his eyes again. This was the second time this snow fox who was seeking death called him a pretty boy. Very good. Its own pace of seeking death had accelerated. It asked for this. Are you sure you want to fight me one-on-one? Aren't you going to choose properly? We have 4 people. The demon chuckled as he confirmed. Of course. I only want to fight you one-on-one. The Snow Fox King did not sense the impending danger and still spoke fearlessly. This was the 3rd time. The demon's eyes flashed coldly. King, calm down. Suddenly, the Snow Fox tribe's Grand Elder softly advised. For some reason, he felt very uneasy. Furthermore, when he saw the man's carefree appearance, this feeling became even stronger. Calm down, my ass. They're all being bullied by humans. The Snow Fox King rebuked angrily. It was quite dissatisfied with its Great Elder's dissuasion. King. This human is deliberately provoking you. Don't be fooled. The Snow Fox Great Elder did not give up. However, the Snow Fox King was getting more and more impatient with its long-winded speech. It could not help but roar, what do you know? I'm trying to protect the honor of our Snow Fox race. Do you want me to swallow my anger when I see the human in front of me provoking me? Chapter 23:42, Pretty Boy, do you dare to fight me one-on-one? 3. Get out of my way. I want to have a one-on-one fight with this pretty boy. The Snow Fox King glanced at the Great Elder and said. It was the 4th time. He secretly counted the evildoers who held grudges. In this short period of time, he had been called a pretty boy 4 times. Oh. Later, he would let the Snow Fox King enjoy his hospitality. Otherwise, he would feel sorry for the Snow Fox King's enthusiasm. Human. You can die now. The Snow Fox King pushed the Great Elder of the Snow Fox clan away and pounced on the demon with its anger and the might of a supreme god. When Leng Ruoxue and the rest saw this, they quickly jumped to the side to give the 2 of them some space to fight. While they were watching the battle, they did not forget to observe the reactions of the snow foxes from the corner of their eyes, in case they launched a sneak attack. However, beasts were not as cunning as humans. When the snow foxes saw that their king had started fighting, they all stretched out their necks to watch the battle. None of them wanted to take advantage of the chaos to launch a sneak attack. This also made Leng Ruoxue's impression of them improve. It seemed that these snow foxes were not beyond saving. As she thought of this, Leng Ruoxue's wariness towards the snow foxes also lowered slightly. As for the Snow Fox King who was in the middle of the battle, it was infuriated by the demon's slyness. Fuck. It could be considered an accident if it missed its target, but wasn't the number of accidents it had encountered a little too many? After the battle with the human, it had attacked at least 5 times, but it had not even touched the human's clothes. This fact made it feel irritated. Then, the Snow Fox King flashed its sharp claws, which were emitting a cold air. Like 5 silver threads, they drew an arc in the air and attacked the demon again. Seeing this, the demon dodged slightly without panicking. The divine power contained in the Snow Fox King's sharp claws directly hit a thick giant tree not far away, and the giant tree was cut in half. Snow Fox King, you didn't hit me. Good luck. The demon reminded him with a smile. The Snow Fox King, who was already angry, became even angrier after hearing these provocative words. Its attacks became even more violent. However, the evildoer kept dodging and had no intention of fighting back. Even so, it did not take long for the huge Snow Fox King to be so tired that it was gasping for breath. Snow Fox King. You lack too much exercise. It's only been a while, but look at how you're panting. The demon saw that the Snow Fox King's attack was not as powerful as before and continued to provoke it. Fuck. Human pretty boy, I won't let you off. As expected, the Snow Fox King still needed some stimulation. After being provoked by the demon, its anger immediately continued to increase. The attacks instantly became fierce again, while evildoer continued to dodge nimbly. Shwar, is he planning to exhaust the Snow Fox King to death? Upon seeing the evildoer's actions, Uncle Long came to Len Ruoxu's side and asked with a puzzled expression. Seeing this, Jiang Ning also came over, his face filled with questions. Ugh! Len Ruoxue did not know how to answer such a question. Could she say that the demon was training the Snow Fox King? She guessed that even if she said that, Uncle Long and Jiang Ning would not believe her. At this time, Azure smiled and said, "It's good to let that old fox be tired. After living for so long, the meat has long been old and not delicious. Exercise more and the meat will be more delicious." It was rare for it to speak up for the demon. Uncle Long and Jiang Ning fell silent. Eat the Snow Fox King. This wasn't very good, right? Although the two of them weren't kind little white flower goddesses, they still didn't dare to compliment Sang's thoughts. However, they firmly believed that Sang was just saying it. All of a sudden, out of the corner of his eye, Uncle Long saw the sneaky and mysterious great elder of the Snow Fox tribe. Seeing that old fox looking around with a constipated expression on his face, Uncle Long instantly put his guard up again. What was this old thing doing? Humph. If anyone dared to launch a sneak attack, he would be the first to attack. However, the Snow Fox tribe's great elder looked around for a while and then looked at Len Ruoxue and the others with a calm expression. When he saw that they were not looking at him, he quickly turned around and ran back into the tribe. Shwar, the Snow Fox tribe's great elder is running back. Uncle Long reminded him in a low voice. Thanks, well, it probably went to call for help. It's okay, just ignore it. Len Ruoxue was very calm. Her beautiful eyes were still on the demon and the Snow Fox King. The poor Snow Fox King, with its 2-meter-long body, was on the verge of collapse as it walked. Its legs began to tremble. Although it was not injured at the moment, its fur was covered with sweat. Its fur was sticky and its breathing was heavier. It was obvious that it was exhausted. Len Ruoxue felt a little sympathy for this fatty who didn't seem to exercise much. However, she believed that the Snow Fox King would be able to lose weight successfully after being trained by the demon a few more times. But he didn't know if it would have such an opportunity again. After a long time, the Snow Fox King could no longer attack. He was so tired that he collapsed on the ground, gasping for breath, and his eyes were a little unfocused. It was obvious that the Snow Fox King wanted to rest. This time, it was so tired that it did not have the time to be angry. However, the demon did not want to let the Snow Fox King off so easily. The demon came to the Snow Fox King's side, raised his foot, and kicked the Snow Fox King's huge body a few times. 2 big footprints were left on the Snow Fox King's snow-white fur that was stuck together into a bun. The Snow Fox King was immediately invigorated by the kick. However, it only glared at the demon. Not only did it not make a sound, but it also did not have the intention to stand up and continue attacking. This made the demon feel a sense of accomplishment, and it bullied the Snow Fox King even more without any scruples. Unfortunately, no matter how hard the demon kicked the Snow Fox King did not seem to care. Of course, it was not that the Snow Fox King did not want to be angry, but it had no strength left. It was as if all the strength in its body had been sucked dry. It could not even lift its arms and legs. Otherwise, with its pride as the Snow Fox King and a reverent god, how could it allow a puny human to be so presumptuous? The demon kicked the Snow Fox King's body for a while. He was very, very dissatisfied that his efforts were in vain. Suddenly, he turned his head and looked at the snow foxes behind him. The snow foxes were caught off guard by his gaze, and the timid ones immediately shivered. However, most of the snow foxes revealed wary gazes. At this moment, the demon randomly pointed at a snow fox and said, "You, go get me some cold water." When the unfortunate snow fox that was named by him heard these words, it was in a daze and was at a loss. It did not know how to react. Seeing this, the demon could only put on a straight face and deliberately released his own pressure. "Did you not hear what I said? Hurry up and go." In an instant, the snow fox's face turned pale. Then, it turned around and ran away as if a ghost was chasing after it. When Len Ruoshua saw this, she couldn't help but laugh in her heart. Even though she didn't know what the demon was up to, she knew that he would never do anything good. Not long after, the obedient and cowardly snow fox returned. After throwing a wooden bucket to the demon, it ran back to the clan and refused to come out. The demon looked at the wooden bucket full of water in front of him. It was called a wooden bucket, but that was only relative to the snow fox. The water bucket was not small, it was almost as tall as an adult. The water inside was also full, and there was a thin layer of ice on it. The demon was very satisfied with this. Then, Len Ruoshua and the rest of the snow foxes saw the demon gently lift the wooden bucket over his head and pour it down on the snow fox king's head. In the blink of an eye, the snow fox king had become a fallen chicken, the one that was shivering in the cold. This water was the snow water from Longevity Mountain. The temperature was extremely low. Even if the snow foxes were not afraid of the cold, they did not like such cold water. Moreover, the water had been poured on their bodies. One could naturally imagine the bone-chilling cold. However, what made the snow foxes feel incredulous was that their king was turning into a transparent ice sculpture in front of them. They could even see that the snow fox king inside the ice sculpture was clenching its claws into a fist in anger and pounding on the transparent ice wall. This scene made all the snow foxes present completely dumbfounded. Uncle Long and Jiang Ning were also in disbelief. Was the temperature really that low? The two of them were deeply suspicious. However, when they saw Len Ruoxia's calm expression, they knew in their hearts that it was most likely this girl's doing. However, they had definitely wronged Len Ruoxia this time. Because the one who did this wasn't her, but Sung, who wanted the world to be in chaos. When Evildoer had poured the water on the Snow Fox King, Azure had secretly used the freezing technique to freeze the Snow Fox King. Other than Len Ruoxia, the only other person who knew about this matter was the demon. However, the evildoer would not be grateful to it. On the contrary, he felt that the annoying fellow was being a busybody. Originally, he was having fun with the Snow Fox King, but that damn cat had to come and interfere. If this was during a battle, it would have stolen his monster. Of course, he would not be happy. Evildoer silently turned his head and glared at Cold. Cold returned him a bright smile and even showed a provocative look. The expression